we need to be compensated as a program when the bigger schools take our programs, when they take our kids, you know. And I don't know if that's financially, that every kid is worth X amount of money. You know, you can't give them compensatory draft picks, but
just
a simple question as we celebrate the Gator with the national title and the get it done, fulfilling all the
expectations, really, at every single round of the tournament. But when you watch college sports today, does it feel like college sports, or does it feel like pro sports with college gear?
And David, I think you know the answer to that. I think it's obvious that a situation where we have pro sports wearing college uniforms. And you brought up some of the other sports. You know, I was watching some stuff yesterday, and college hockey, which you and I both love, is now being taken over by the Big Ten. Why? Because they have all the money to pay the athletes to come play in their conference. And for the schools like BU and Denver and some of the smaller schools who are in the Final Four, Western Michigan, we'll see how this goes down the road. But college baseball, you know, my son who went to ECU, they have a great baseball program. They lost their best pitcher, a kid from Fort Myers. He transferred to Arkansas. Why do you think he transferred to Arkansas? Do you think Fayetteville was that much better than Greenville, North Carolina? Or do you think he was getting more money to go to Arkansas? It's pretty simple. So there's no doubt that we've watched a monumental change, and you, more than me, have been at the forefront of saying, make them employees. What are you going to do to curtail the amount of money that's in collegiate sports? And is there an end to the well that is financing college sports? Are there enough rich people out there that just want to make sure that their alma mater is great at athletics? Because it's being paid for on the back of alumni and boosters. Name, image, and likeness is nothing more than pay for play. And I don't see that changing.
So that was going on yesterday in a California courtroom where the judge said, I'm not going to rule today. These are my concerns going forward. But the judge has indicated that they're about to rule and to push this plan forward with a few things that still need to be worked out. So that'll be getting a lot of conversation the rest of the month. But for today and tonight, SEC, and it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Here on Miller and Moulton. Great show today. For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to NolanAgency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or NolanAgency.com.
Defining a new era in Men's Health. Get stronger and healthier at Game Day Men's Health. With our in-house laboratory, get in, get treated, and get back to your passion and purpose. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs or Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for a 10% discount on your service. Start living your best with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples. Call 239-427-3441 today.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
This is Miller and Moulton.
How you holding up?
No comment. But it's real. I have a lot of comments. When everything goes to hell in a handbasket here, I appreciate everybody doubling down on the text line because what I need is 400 texts going, are you on the air today? Jesus H. Christ. I'm trying, man. I'm effing trying.
Thing that's most frustrating, ladies and gentlemen, is that it's not our doing.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour on this Tuesday morning, in which, who had this at the beginning of the season? The Florida Gators are your national champions. Hell, we were pretty early jumping on the wagon when the calendar still said 2024. But third natty for the Gators. Houston still looking for their first. And Mark, how cruel sports can be, for as magical and for how well Houston executed and performed in the final minute against Duke. That was not necessarily the case against the Gators.
It was a slog.
Oh, yeah.
It was. Here's the part that has to eat at Kelvin Samson for the rest of his time. If you would have told him the game was played with a total of 128 points, he would have signed up for that 100 out of 100 times.
Oh, yeah.
It was played at his pace. If you would have told him that the Gators would have 12 turnovers at the half, he would have signed up for it 100 out of 100 times. And the Gators, after throwing the ball away over and over and over and over again in the first half, didn't do any of it in the second half.
I mean, they didn't hit a ton of shots, but they at least held on to the ball. And they did about as good a job as you could do against the Houston Cougars on the glass. Did a far better job on the glass than Duke did. And someone, Mark, in our Twitch chat room said, you know, if it wasn't for the score on the screen, watching the entire game, it just felt like the Gators were down 10 to 15 points the entire game.
The entire game. Clayton was scoreless in the first half. Turned it over a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Was just chucking shots. I mean, was shooting for the sake of shooting in the first half. There was no rhyme or rhythm to what he did. And yet, the Gators stuck around. They hung in there. And I was stunned a couple of times, David, that I'd look up at the score and it's 4. How's it 4? They're not doing anything to keep themselves in it, and yet somehow the Gators were able to cling in the first half and stay in it when it looked as if points they could get run out of the gym.
It felt a lot to me like the first half of Duke-Houston. It felt like Duke dominated that half, but LJ Cryer hit a few threes for Houston, and the Cougars went into the locker room down just 6, 34-28. Well, sure enough, Will Richard was the only guy putting the ball in the ocean for the Gators in the first half, and he hit a few threes, and if it wasn't for him, they're down double figures at the half. But instead, Mark, when Florida went into the room only down 3, I felt pretty good that Florida was going to win.
I'm right there with you because the offensive rebounding numbers were staggeringly in front of Houston. The turnovers, Houston barely turned the ball over if they did in the first half. Florida was all over the place, and yet it was a 3-point game.
And then the Cougars start the second half on an 11-2. Tough to call it a run because I don't. It was more of a slog. But
11-2 walk, you could call it 11-2
Okay,
walk if you
there
want.
you go.
I think we understand where you're coming from.
And next thing you know, Houston's up 42-30. Quick sidebar. I don't think it influenced the outcome of the game, but could you have two halves of basketball officiated any differently? I mean,
they called, I believe, 4 fouls in the first half. 1 on the Gators,
right.
3 on Houston.
Right.
They called 5 fouls on the Gators in the first 2 minutes and 14 seconds of the second half, David.
I mean, what a strangely officiated game. I think both teams fought through it. Ironically, the Gators ended up shooting more free throws, and they were good once again from the line. It helped them win. But, wow. I thought the officiating in the Final Four was not as good as it needed to be brutally honest with you.
I'm with you. I'm right there with you. I was texting with a buddy and said, what happened? Why did the refs feel the need to interject the way that they did in the second half? We don't know. Were the coaches all over him in the tunnel saying, you're not calling fouls, my guy's getting mugged? I don't know, because it's not like the game wasn't physical in the first half, David.
Right.
It's not like the styles changed when they began the second half. And the officials decided very early on in the second half that they were going to interject. They were going to be a part of the action, and they called a boatload of fouls. And after they called all the fouls on the Gators, what happens? They got to start making up calls on Houston.
What did they have, as Sonny points out in our Twitch chat room? Wasn't it like 3 fouls in 9 seconds at one sequence?
Yes.
I was like, oh, man, I tell you what, can you guys just go on a coffee break? Could you guys take 10, 15 minutes, and we'll just let these guys roll the ball out and play? All right? Kind of what we did in the first half. All right. Back to the game. When it was 42-30, I'm not going to lie, I was worried for the Gators because I thought they'd come out of the locker room and look a little bit, they came out of the room against Texas Tech and tied the game up before Tech then went up by 9 late. They came out of the room against Auburn and in pretty quick fashion put the 11-0 run on the board and actually went up by 2. When instead it's Houston coming out of the room, putting the 11-2 spurt on the board, and the Gators are down 12, and there's no sign of life from Clayton yet. Mark, I thought the key to the game was the run immediately after it was 42-30. And whether it was a run or a stroll, you know what I mean, in which Clayton was not doing the scoring and they were getting back in the game. And they went to, I think it was the second media timeout of the half, and it was 45-41 Houston. And Clayton still hasn't hit a bucket. And I'm thinking to myself, okay. Because I have a theory, and I've said it out loud doing play-by-play of basketball a lot. Scorers and really good players can have bad halves. They very rarely have bad games. They find a way to get their points. And when we were midway through the second half and Clayton just had the 2 free throws, and I'm like, well, he's going to get his. And sure enough, 2 3-point plays in the final 10 minutes of the game. And obviously, with scoring tough to come by, they needed them both.
And one of the things we talked about yesterday, David, you brought it up in Florida semifinal where they were being outworked. Florida throughout the game, but particularly in the second half, on the floor, getting the loose balls, getting the 50-50 balls, matching Houston's aggressiveness for the basketball, I thought was critical, because when you're not scoring, you damn well better sacrifice everything else to get the basketball.
The other thing the Gators did, Mark, and you talked about it because you heard Kelvin Sampson refer to it earlier in the tournament. Yeah, Houston got like 12 offensive rebounds. They hardly scored a point off them. Remarkable job by the Gators not allowing second chance points. Miller and Moulton are very grateful to you, the listeners, for making us one of the highest rated shows for men, because the working man is one of the toughest demos to reach, and we do. Great sponsors like Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Sleep Treatment Direct, Game Day Men's Health, and Molly Maid recognize that, and we thank them. And if you own a business and working men are your clientele, the most cost-effective way to reach them is through us. Text Miller and Moulton at 21,000 or directly via X at that Mark Miller or the David.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has the look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online. This is Miller and Moulton. Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour. That's when David Samson will join us for his weekly visit. Mike Miller from the field of 68 as we recap the Gators winning the national championship. Pat Kirwan, midway through our show, at least in the 239 and the 904, the 8 a.m. Eastern hour. Pat will join us to talk all things NFL with the draft a little more than 2 weeks away. And Bob Harig, 2 hours from now, will join us live from Augusta, which was rainy, stormy Augusta for a good chunk of yesterday, but apparently that's the only bad weather they're expecting this week.
Oh, really?
That's what I read.
Okay, because I Friday I saw a 50% chance of rain in Augusta.
Oh, okay.
Monday and Friday.
All right. Well,
So the weather is going to be cool, but sunny every other day. It's never going to really be above 70. I think Thursday is. The rest of the week is going to be below 70 for highs. So it will be cooler. The weather yesterday, a lot of rain. It'll waterlog the course, but I'm sure they'll take care of that and dry it out by Thursday, bring in whatever they have to do to speed up those greens, the air underneath, and all of the things that they do there to keep Augusta's greens running at about 13, 14 for the week.
the greens were already considered hard because they had the Augusta Women's National Tournament over the weekend, and the greens were considered firm. So maybe the rain actually will help a little bit.
I have one question that I want to ask, though, to all of the Gators out there. And first and foremost, congratulations. Got to be happy. Nothing like waking up when your team has won a natty. There isn't. There really is no greater feeling that when you win a championship, you get in the morning and you'll be like, I'll be damned. We just won a national championship. But with that being said, Gator fan, Gator alum, Gator student, if you're listening, would you trade the natty if I told you could go 10-2 and go to the playoff next year?
Oh.
Because I think you would.
Sounds like a poll question.
I think you would.
Sounds like a poll question. Which would you rather have? A basketball national championship, a spot in the football playoff?
And for a lot of schools, you know, at my alma mater, I think most people would take the basketball natty. Every SEC school not named Kentucky, I think, would take the 10-2, get into the football playoff. I really do.
19 minutes before the hour. Time now for
Starting five. 5 big stories you need to know. Here is the starting five.
As we've been mentioning, the Gators come from behind in the second half, trailed by as much as 12. Made enough plays late, hit enough free throws late, and a great defensive sequence, a couple of them in the final minute. Houston doesn't even get off a final shot to tie or win the game. Florida wins their third national championship, 65-63. Walter Clayton Jr. voted, I should say, most outstanding player, despite being scoreless in the first half and being held to 11 points and 7 assists in the Natty. But he had back-to-back 30-plus point games in the Elite Eight and the Final Four. And the last player to do that was Larry Bird. Will Richard, leading scorer for Florida with 18 points, many of them in the first half when he kept them in the game. Gators actually won the battle of the boards by 1. Both teams really struggled from beyond the arc, each hitting only 6 threes. Houston still looking for their first national championship, and a lot of those guys are done. That'll be a largely new starting lineup for the Cougs next year. Meanwhile, former Nova standout Chris Jenkins, remember 9 years ago, he hit the shot to beat North Carolina at the buzzer. He is suing the NCAA and 6 major conferences for limiting his NIL. He and some others have opted out of the $2.8 billion, what's being called House versus NCAA settlement. There are hearings still going on, but that settlement is expected to be reached sometime this week. And then that settlement will also etch in some hard and fast rules going forward for the quote student athletes, which somehow I don't think they're going to like. And some of them are going to sue. And how often has the NCAA been successful in court lately? We'll hang up and listen.
That would be never, David.
There you go. NHL, Lightning with 3 in the first. Braden Point, 2 goals and a helper. Kucherov, a goal and 2 assists. Some guy named Vasilevsky with 38 saves. Tampa Bay, 5-1 over the Rangers. They are 2 points back of Toronto for first in the division. The Leafs do have a game in hand. St. Louis's 12-game winning streak was snapped in Winnipeg. The Jets with 2 in the third to win it 3-1. Edmonton and the LA Kings both lost, so the Kings remain 4 points ahead of the Oilers for second in the division. They're going to play one another for the 4th straight year in the playoffs. It's just a matter of will LA, who's been really good at home, will they have home ice in the series? And it looks like they will. And Calgary's hanging in there out west. They beat San Jose 3-2. They are 4 points behind the Minnesota Wild for the final playoff spot out west. And Calgary has a game in hand. Montreal pulling away in the east. Calgary trying to hang in there in the west. There's only about 4 or 5 games left in the season, depending on your team's schedule. One other hockey note off the ice. Johnny Gaudreau's widow delivered their 3rd child 8 days ago. Actually, a week ago today. It was April 1st. The boy is named Carter Michael Gaudreau. Michael was Johnny's middle name. Carter Michael Gaudreau happens to be the exact same size, height, and weight that Johnny Gaudreau was when he was born. All the best to that family. Johnny and his brother killed 7 months ago by a suspected drunken driver before their sister was to be married the very next day. 2 games in the NBA last night. The Heat tied going to the 4th against the lowly Sixers, but they pulled away to win by 12, 117-105. They're a half a game ahead of the Bulls for the 9 seed, so they could maybe host the 9-10 play-in game and win it and then go on the road and try to get in the playoffs. Detroit lost one at home that I think they'd want back. Sacramento beat them 127-117. Detroit
They puked all over themselves in the second half.
Yeah, Detroit now looks like they're going to be the 6th seed. Detroit was toying with being the 4, and then they were really battling Milwaukee for the 5, and now they're 2 games behind the Bucks with 3 to play. So Detroit's all but locked into the 6. The Knicks are all but locked into the 3. It's been a while, like 30 years, but it looks like Knicks Pistons in the first round of the playoffs. Sacramento with the win, by the way. They are the 9 seed out west, a game ahead of Dallas, so they would host that play-in game as the standings call for it now.
Pistons and Bucks do finish with 2 games against one another to finish the regular season, for what it's worth.
And Detroit has to win them both to have any realistic shot. Baseball, 11 games last night. Marlins shut out in New York. Mets, I think, right now have the best team ERA in baseball. Mets 2-0 over the Marlins. They've won 5 in a row. Miami's 5-5 on the season. Tigers have won 4 in a row. They beat the Yankees 6-2. The Dodgers have lost 3 of 4. Good news. They got to visit the White House yesterday and, meet with the president and give a jersey, get a jersey, that whole deal.
The third place LA Dodgers. That's in their division. The third place Dodgers.
Well, it's because their record is a terrible 9-3.
Right.
I mean, you can see why they're in third. Nats beat them 6-4. Toronto got 3 RBI singles from George Springer in a 6-2 win over the Red Sox. Cubs with 4 in the 6th beat Texas 7-0. Cubs are 8-5. That's a battle of first place teams because Texas is 8-3 in the AL West. Pirates handed the Cardinals their 4th straight loss, 8-4. Both teams are below 500. The Padres beat the A's 5-4. Mark, they are 9-2. And they are in first by a half a game over the Giants, who saw their 7-game win streak snapped yesterday at home. The Reds beat them 2-0. So the Padres are 9-2. The Giants are 8-2. And the Dodgers are 9-3. And Arizona's a pretty good team also. Kansas City doubles up the Twins 4-2. Royals are 500. Orioles 5-1 over Arizona. That's the good news. The bad news, Zach Eflin, 6 good innings, but then had to leave with what's being called a, quote, tired shoulder, unquote. Yeah, shoulder injuries for pitchers are never a good thing.
No, they're not. And there's a big one in LA, too.
Seattle scored 2 in the 8th to beat Houston 4-3. Finally, golf. Rain all day yesterday. The patrons were only allowed in for about 4 hours yesterday before they were sent home. The folks at Augusta National told all those, hey, we'll give you your money back and you can get Monday tickets for next year if you want as well. Just reach out to us after the tournament. We'll take care of it. Not that they're into customer service there or anything. Vijay Singh withdrew because of an injury. Now, we knew he wasn't going to win it, but he did make the cut last year, the Champions Tour player, former Masters champion. That leaves 95, Mark. 95 players in the field for the Masters, which gets underway in a little over 48 hours. Tonight, the Champions Dinner. And most everybody shows up at the course and plays a practice round. And a lot of them like to get their interviews out of the way today so that tomorrow they could just come and do what they want. Some will play in the par 3 contest, others won't. They'll leave the course, etc.
Lot got the interviews out of the way yesterday with the big rain delay, so a lot of guys maybe took advantage of that and did their media obligations yesterday. Watched both Schauffele and great interview with Bernhard Langer. It's going to be his last Masters and just reflecting on his 41st start at Augusta. Remarkable.
A 2-time champion in 85 and 93. Bernhard Langer. What's it, 17 consecutive years he's won a tournament on the Champions Tour?
17 consecutive years.
By the
He
way,
was joking in his presser. He was laughing. They showed a video montage of him when he won in 85. He was wearing like all red. And he said, I told Tiger I did it first.
Bob Harig will join us in a little more than an hour and a half live from Augusta. And at 8 minutes before the hour, that was the starting 5. 5 big stories and a Masters update that you need to know here on Miller and Moulton.
I will get it. Don't worry. But I think because of the tournament and my enjoyment of the tournament, and someone even mentioned in the Twitch chat room with a late Easter this year, it's now starting to feel like Masters Week. Like I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the Masters. I read a few articles yesterday about all the newcomers. None of those. There's 21 newcomers to the Masters. Not one has a shot. Not a single one.
So no Fuzzy in this year's Masters?
I don't see it.
Okay. My son-in-law texted me a question yesterday in which he said, besides Scheffler, McIlroy, and Schauffele, who could you see winning this? And he said, pick 3. I thought that was interesting.
I do too.
I thought about it for a few hours, actually.
I like that son-in-law of yours. If he can make you take away from whatever you were doing to think about the 3 guys not named Schauffele, Scheffler, and McIlroy, they're going to win the Masters, then that kid's doing really good work. David Samson does really good work, and he is next.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no.
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt. Oh, you kidding me? And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor, a neighborly company.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
We've got a text message for Dr. Dollar. I feel tired, sluggish, and just not myself. I'm gaining weight, my energy is low, and I've lost my drive. Could it be low testosterone?
Absolutely. Testosterone naturally declines over time, but you don't have to accept it. Low T can affect your energy, strength, mood, and focus. But here's the good news. Testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, can help restore your vitality and get you back to feeling your best. Imagine waking up strong, sharp, and energized, ready to take on the day like you used to. At Revitalize Clinic, we specialize in physician-guided, American-made TRT designed just for you.
Take control of your health today. Call Revitalize Clinic at 239-277-5770. Visit revitalizelounge.com or text Dr. Dollar directly at 239-980-2302. Feel like yourself again. Testosterone replacement therapy, because your best years aren't behind you, they're just getting started. Text Dr. Dollar now at 239-980-2302.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Good morning, David.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you just fine.
Fantastic.
Now, do you get, I know you have to. Do you watch that? Did you stay up and watch that whole game? Did you enjoy any of that monstrosity of a slog of a basketball game?
I was annoyed from minute 1 to minute 40. Too late, and the quality of basketball was so bad. It was exciting at the end, though, but that's about it.
Yeah, I remember years ago, David and I went to the last Miami, Florida State football game at the Orange Bowl. And I had never been to a Miami, Florida State game at the OB and was all fired up. We did our show there. We were doing afternoons at the time. And the game was a, one-score game, and it finished in a very exciting fashion. And we sprinted out. There's about 20 seconds left. We looked at each other, ran to where the car was so we could beat the traffic and get the hell out of there. And we drove about 5 minutes and didn't really talk much. And I looked at him and I went, that game sucked, didn't it? And he's like, yeah, other than the end, it was terrible football. And that's kind of how I felt about that game last night.
Me too. It was ironic that Billy Donovan got in the Hall of Fame this week and his team won again, but in such an ugly way. But a win's a win. A champion's a champion.
Absolutely.
I hear David.
And yet, as I pose the question to every Gator fan out there, would you trade the Natty for 10-2 in football this year and a shot in the playoff? And I think to a man, they all would.
Really?
Oh, my buddy who's a diehard Florida alum, I texted to him the other day when they made the Final Four. I said, you'd trade all of it for 10-2 and a shot at the playoff, wouldn't you? And he's like, yep.
A championship in the hand, baby.
I know, but the power of that pigskin.
Yeah.
Especially in the SEC.
Reminds me of Monty Hall. Let's make a deal.
You got it.
Give up your championship for a shot at something that could end up a glass of milk.
I used to love that show growing up.
You got to be very careful behind curtain number 2.
Yeah, I always wanted to keep, if I had something good, I was always saying, keep it, because, I was afraid you were going to get, a lifetime supply of green beans,
It's like white elephant parties these days, where you can trade in a gift, and that may not be the name of it or the rule, but you get a gift and then you can give it back if you don't like it and open another one. You could end up with like tinfoil.
So where are you today?
I'm in studio in Miami doing Dan's show.
Some folks in the Twitch chat room with the decor behind you think that that's like a church organ.
No, it's a
it does
studio.
have that pipe organ look to it.
Right.
It's palm trees. You can't really see it very well, but yes, I'm in studio where I'll be recording Nothing Personal in about an hour, and then Dan's show in 2 hours.
Dan's show starts at 9?
Yes.
I end up listening because, I'm in the car and I have Sirius. I listen to Dan Patrick occasionally, and I'll get in the car, and he comes on at noon, the replay. So I've listened to some of that.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
And joined at this day and time, which is the 7 a.m. Eastern hour on a Tuesday, by our good friend David Samson. He of the terrific award-winning podcast, Nothing Personal with David Samson, which he will record live 59 minutes from now. And then it will re-air at 9 a.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network. You can follow David on X at David, the letter P. Samson. David, the letter P. Samson. Top of the morning to you. How are you?
I am doing well. Good morning to you both. Is anyone tired from staying up late to watch that championship game?
Boy, are we going to date us right out of the chute? The game ended at 11:09 p.m.
Yeah,
David, not nearly as tired as I was when I got up at 6:30 Sunday morning after watching the Duke-Houston game that went until after midnight. I know that's a Saturday, but that one lasted a lot longer. So I'm a little more refreshed this morning than I was on Sunday morning.
I'm fine staying up late. I stay up late every night. I have a thing. It brings me back to childhood when Monday night football games would kick off at after 9 p.m. and would end at 12:35, 1 o'clock, and I'd have to wake up and go to school the next morning all the way through law school, did that. Last night, I just felt like there was no reason for it to be 8:50, and they were trying to get credit for like starting 20 minutes earlier than they had, like 9:10 to 8:50, and in return, we got so many rim clunks that it was hard to even watch.
So we asked you the question that we are asking our audience, at least Gator Nation, but obviously everyone can chime in. Obviously, at an SEC school not named Kentucky, football is king. So, which would you rather have as a fan? I can hand you the natty. Here it is. Here's the trophy. Or we can play Let's Make a Deal, and you can hand that back to us, and we'll give you a spot in the college football playoff. Just a spot. Which would you rather have?
I want rings. I'm a ring guy. I'm not going to trade away a championship for a chance to win a championship. Now, I grant you that people will say winning the college football playoff is more prestigious, it's more exciting. But you lose in the first round of CFP or the second round, and then you don't have a championship, to me, you've made a bad trade.
I agree. And yet I think, and most of the Gator fans that I am friendly with would quickly trade back that natty for a shot at something special in football. But I'm on your side. I'm curious. Here we are a couple of weeks into the baseball season. And fortunately, Blake Snell's MRI came back clean. But we had Eflin has tests for his shoulder. I mean, here we are again. Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any possible solutions to what seems to be an epidemic of arm injuries to pitchers?
Well, it certainly feels that way every season, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We have the same conversation, and then we compare numbers. Number of Tommy Johns this year versus last year versus 5 years ago. Take a look at the number of innings pitched. Trying to get a pitcher to 200 is like trying to get a hitter to 300. It just doesn't happen anymore. I think there were like 7 hitters who hit above 300 last year. The game has changed, and the way we've changed it, and it's our fault, but the way we've changed it, there's no more premium on length for a starting pitcher. If you get through the lineup twice, we're happy. If you can make it through a third time, it's like ecstasy. So for me, what I say is what Jack McKeon taught me, our manager we won the World Series with. We are going to ride these donkeys forever. I don't want to have a hot bullpen where we bring in a guy or 2 guys or 4 guys who all have to be hot on the same day in order to get a win. I want one guy to be able to carry me into the 8th and bridge to a closer and take my chances. But we've stopped that. Pitchers have stopped building toward that. And the reason why you're getting shoulder inflammation and Tommy Johns is also velocity, spin, all of the things that pitchers need in the analytic age to get the advantage over the hitter. Those things are not natural. The movements aren't natural. And I end with this. Don't let any of your audience or anybody say it's because of the pitch clock. That is completely fake news. The pitch clock is in no way related to injuries because if you look way before the pitch clock, the injuries, what's changed only is what we're asking out of our pitchers, which is to throw as fast as you can, spin it as much as you can until you blow out and we bring someone else in.
I don't know why length from a starting pitcher is actually not the number one thing that teams would want. I'm serious. I mean, first off, a guy, they're going with 5 to 8 man rotations nowadays. I mean, it's almost like college where a guy's pitching once a week. I mean, I'd want him out there for as long as possible. I want to use my bullpen as little as possible. I don't understand, how did your sport come around to this thinking? I'd rather have 4 innings throwing as hard as I can than 6 2/3 innings of 80%.
So it's bizarre, but analytics tells you when a starting pitcher comes out. They give you matchups of bullpen arms versus the batters versus the pinch hitters. And what you're doing when you're game planning is you're deciding when you want the other team to pinch hit, when you want them to switch out certain players, the impact that would have defensively, the impact that would have on the batting order later in the game. You're playing out sort of in real time what a full game looks like. And so you're making decisions in the 4th inning because of a matchup you want in the 8th inning. And I get it from an analytic standpoint, but here's what hasn't changed. There's still teams winning 70 games. There's still teams who are underperforming. There's still teams trying to win world championships or get into the playoffs. There's still teams with huge payrolls who don't make the playoffs. So all of the crazy analytics stuff that they're doing, from food to sleep to matchups to buying these $500,000 pitching machines so you can have a picture of the pitcher pitching to you in the batting cage, yet averages are plummeting. It's just funny to me, all of the money that's being spent to try to make everyone better.
I heard Tim Kirchin in an interview at the end of it about Tommy John say it's not an MLB problem. It's actually a travel ball problem at a younger age, that we have kids that are playing baseball 12 months a year, whereas a generation ago, you didn't do that. You played 3 sports, perhaps. We've forced kids into one sport by the age of 12, which to me is the most ridiculous thing on the planet. Do you think there's any validity to the fact that we're throwing kids too much, and that's where part of the arm injuries are coming from?
I don't. My son played Little League and he played up through high school, and there were pitch counts that were absolutely enforced for pitchers in Little League, when they can pitch, how often they can pitch, what pitches they can pitch. Now, there are a bunch of crazy parents, don't tell anyone.
Yes,
who
there
have
are.
Their kids hire outside coaches and do things with their kids' arms because they think their kid's going to be Nolan Ryan or Max Scherzer, when in fact their kid's going to be David Samson. And you just can't legislate against crazy. And the parents who have this view of their kid, the number of kids who have outside coaches, hitting coaches, pitching coaches, fielding coaches, it is mind-boggling to me. And it's not necessarily a socioeconomic thing, because you've got kids who are poorer who are finding ways, because coaches latch on to kids and think, hey, if I can coach this kid and he makes the big leagues, now we're talking. It's like almost Buscanis from the Dominican is what we're breeding. So it's a whole problem, and I think it starts with parents, and I don't mean to blame parents this significantly, but I sort of do.
I heard that Samson was crafty, though. He had guile. He could get you one time through the lineup. $500 million over 14 years for Vladdy Jr. Was this a case of the organization had to pay him, or else the fan base was basically going to turn on the organization?
I've been there. We gave Giancarlo Stanton, when we signed him, to 325, and we said, hey, gee, what's the number where you won't say no? It's the worst way to negotiate in the world.
Right.
And he said, well, if you gave me 325 million, then of course I'd have to take that. And I said, all right, how's 325? And then he signed. Same with Guerrero. The only way Guerrero was going to sign right now was an overpay, and it was a perfect storm, because the Blue Jays had this feeling. It's such a bad feeling when you haven't gotten players you've tried for, whether it's Ohtani, whether it's Judge, name the player, it doesn't matter. You get this feeling in your head, is it me? It's sort of like personally, when you're not getting the girl you want or the guy you want, you start thinking to yourself, it can't be them, it's got to be me. What do I change? Well, I could overpay personally, overpay professionally. It leads you to get what you want, but sometimes the price is too high. And it sometimes feels so good at the moment, and then you get buyer's remorse later. And the Blue Jays are celebrating now, and I don't want to take that from them. But when you're thinking about signing your own free agent, I remind you, the Blue Jays didn't get better yesterday when they signed Guerrero. They already had Guerrero. The way they're playing, the way they've had the results over the previous few years, that's their team. My view was always, why don't we spend money on other people and see if that can be the mix that can be better? But that doesn't work always either.
Blue Jays got a lot of money coming off their books in the next couple of years that justifies this, so we'll see how it works out. But to David's point, you've got Cincinnati right now, whose attendance is down. They're mad that aren't spending. Pittsburgh's got people flying over the stadium, sell the team. The Cardinals, which are one of the best franchises in sports, not just baseball, has a 24% decline in attendance because they're pissed off that ownership's not spending money. Yet baseball's attendance is flat because other places are up. But some fans are trying to make a stand. It doesn't work.
Yeah, listen, let's be clear about attendance. You've got teams that are on the way up, teams that are on the way down. What you learn in president school is you just don't want to be flat. You don't want to be in the middle. You either want to be on your way to winning the title or on your way to tanking and not winning the title. And you're seeing teams who are in different places at different times. That's very normal in the industry. You want the teams that are up to be up more than the teams that are down.
He's David Samson. His award-winning podcast, which he's going to record in 47 minutes live, is called Nothing Personal with David Samson. And then they will rebroadcast it live on tape at 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on the DraftKings network. Follow him on X at David the letter P Samson, David P Samson. Good luck your week in Miami. Have a bunch of good shows and safe travels.
Hey, I appreciate you. And listen, go Florida.
Wow, he waited till now to do that.
Getting ready for football season early. That's David Samson.
I'll tell you what, you do that gator chomp in Miami and see how long that lasts there, Mr.
I'm in a
Samson.
quiet studio right now. No one can see me, so I'm good. Sometimes I have to go like this or like this. I don't remember what the hell team I'm rooting for.
Yeah, break that out on the Lebitard show and see if they invite you back.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
We've got a text message for Dr. Dollar. A few of my friends are taking daily Cialis or Viagra. What are the benefits and how much does it cost?
Great question. Cialis, Tadalafil, and Viagra, Sildenafil are game changer for men who want better performance, stamina, and confidence. They improve blood flow, support long-lasting performance, and help you feel like yourself again. And the best part, at Revitalize Clinic, we make it affordable. Less than $1 per pill. No overpriced prescription, no hassle, just real results, American made at the best prices in town. Plus, with early hours starting at 5:30 in the morning, we fit your schedule.
Take control of your health today. Call Revitalize Clinic at 239-277-5770. Visit revitalizelounge.com or text Dr. Dollar directly at 239-980-2302. That's 239-980-2302. Get results. Get confidence. Revitalize Clinic, because every man deserves to perform at his best without breaking the bank. Text Dr. Dollar now at 239-980-2302.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Thanks so much for being with us. Mike Miller, Field of 68, fieldof68.com. We'll put a bow on the Gators winning their third natty last night, 65-63 over Houston. It wasn't pretty, but if you're a Gator fan, it was beautiful. They got the job done. They were tough enough, physically, emotionally, mentally. Not a five-star recruit on the roster either. Todd Golden's third year at Florida, wins a natty. He's only 39 years old.
Youngest since Valvano.
Yep.
As a coach to win the national championship.
And, of course, the similarities. Jimmy V beat Houston by 2. Todd Golden and the Gators beat Houston by 2. Couple of things here. First off, what are you leaning towards with a poll question?
I have to be brutally frank with you, David. I'll just let everybody in a little behind the scenes. This morning was a nightmare. Nothing worked. They have a 2-factor authentication for me to get on any of these computers. So I log in with my password and then it calls me. Except for this morning, it wouldn't call me.
That's a problem.
And then it locked me out of all the computers because I had to retry it enough times, so then I was done. On top of that, we have a satellite that we shoot the show to all our affiliates with.
Right.
Yesterday at about 2:00 in the afternoon, they sent me an email and said, we need you to put a new IP address in for the satellite. It didn't work. As of 7:20, it is now working. We were on a backup. I've been on the phone with Colorado and the poor young lady trying to walk me through this. Eventually, we had to change and put it on a different satellite, different IP address than what they sent me. So I have spent every minute of every commercial break trying to keep this little engine that could just on the air right now. So I haven't given a poll question an ounce of thought. The only thing that's been in my head, but it's a Gator-specific question, is would you trade the natty for 10-2 and a shot at the college football playoff?
Yeah, but I think a lot of college fans can relate, because I think a lot of college sports fans, whether they're Gator fans or not, the same question applies to their team. Men's basketball national championship, or that's nice, but how about if I give you a spot in the playoff and you take your chances from there? Just saying.
Because football's so big, that's all people seem to care about. I mean, there are only a handful of schools that I think would pick basketball first, the usual suspects. Like, I don't think Duke ever imagines getting into a college football playoff.
Although one of those schools just had one of those seasons. What if Indiana were the school?
Because Indiana would take the basketball title.
I think they would too.
Every damn time.
But they did. It's funny. Weren't we phrasing it the same way, only in reverse for Indiana? When they were going 11-1 and getting a bid in the playoff, we were saying, isn't that nice? But wouldn't you trade this for a Final Four in hoop? And most Hoosier fans were like, oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is cute. This occupies the time and all, but, I mean, come on. It's basketball season. Let's go. So I'm with you. That's kind of what I'm thinking today as well. Hey, I do want to amend something I said yesterday. I gave the Islanders organization a lot of credit. First off, I thought their fans were great when Ovechkin scored, and they acted like a Washington Capitals crowd and chanted his name. And, you know, outside of booing the commissioner, which, every commissioner gets booed, that they were warm to all the guests and everything. I thought they were great. And then I said that the organization deserves kudos because they were making it available where your ticket's on your phone, but if you want an actual hard copy ticket of the game, you can use the ticket on the phone and scan it and get a hard copy ticket. Yeah, now I found out the cost.
What was the cost, David?
$45
for a commemorative ticket stub.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, would it change at all if it was, not a commemorative ticket, but just a hard copy ticket of the game?
Ticketmaster came into being and all of the tickets started looking the same. Background color, Ticketmaster all over it, and then that computer font that would show you whatever concert or game that you went to. So it takes away from, the season ticket book, the ticket that had logos on it and looked like a souvenir would be better. I'm not surprised that they charged money for a commemorative ticket. $45 seems a little high for a piece of paper, but hell.
It does. 2025. I might go, but so that's all. I did at least want to get the whole story out there and go, they're being nice, to a point. So
no doubt they're being profitable. I don't know how nice they're being.
Right.
How can we make yet another buck?
Right. Never mind the fact we had a standing room only crowd for a Caps game when we're not in the playoffs. Like they didn't make enough money on that game on Sunday afternoon. But how about my son-in-law's question to me? And actually, I went back and looked at the text. He said, I'll take Scheffler, McIlroy, and DeChambeau.
I'll take the field right now. Right now. Rory McIlroy's not winning the Masters. No way. You can take him. Scheffler is coming into form, but I don't know if he's there yet. Haven't seen anything that shows me he can play 4 rounds, and I don't trust a live golfer to win the Masters. He very well could. I think it would be great. But the fact that Schauffele's not on there intrigues me, David, because I'm interested to see what he does this week. I think that you've got Morikawa that's playing really well right now that I like a lot this week. Oberg is another guy that I think is a guy who could win it.
So he came up with the question. He said, okay, if I had to come up with 3 golfers not named Rory, Scotty, and Bryson, all right, he's a big Schauffele fan, so he threw him on the list. Okay, he went with Minwoo Kim, and then he threw out Tommy Fleetwood. Now, I laughed at that. I mean, he's never won in the States. He didn't break 80 in a round in San Antonio last week. I mean, but so if I had to pick 3 guys not named Rory, Scotty, and Bryson, I sent him Oberg.
Yeah.
Tom Hoagie. I know that's out there, but he's done nothing but top 5s and top 10s consistently. And Sergio. Okay. He's playing really well.
Huh.
Obviously got a pretty good track record there. I know. But it's tough. There are guys that you feel good about contending, but who do you think can win?
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or nolanagency.com. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Lucifer, it's going to be sunny till Friday, 50% chance of rain Friday, sunny Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So the really bad weather was yesterday. Congrats, you guys did it.
I don't even see they don't even have odds on Hoagie unless I'm missing it on the.
Is he not in the field?
No, he's in the field. I
thought he was.
He's in the field, but I'm not seeing odds for him on.
Right.
The Hard Rock app at all.
Robes. I do know that that Hoagie's of Fargo South and North Dakota State, right? Probably the best golfer to come out of the Red River Valley. It's a bit of a reach, but Tom Lehman, I think, was from Alexandria. They claimed him. I know that. Oh, so he didn't go to NDSU, but I knew he was from Fargo. TCU, Payne Stewart. Thanks, Robes. How's the family, buddy? Make you feel old, Robes. Daughter turns 28 at the end of the month. Pregnant with her second kid. Yeah, blame Governor DeSantis, Fly Panda Fly. He's the one who screwed us. He did.
He's on.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
And Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday. Remind you that Pat Kirwan will join the show coming up at the top of the hour to talk all things NFL. And then Bob Harig, live from Augusta, our first Masters preview of the week with Bob coming up. But joining us once again on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs, Mike Miller, who's very instrumental in the success of the Field of 68, thefieldofsixty8.com. Follow Mike on X, Mike Miller F68, Mike Miller F68. Mike, it's David and Mark. Thanks for doing this again. Hey, I'm curious, and I hate to ask questions that, the person who's kind enough to come on the show may not know the answer to. But do you remember a ballpark as to where you guys had the Gators when the season started?
Oh, no. We didn't have them in our top 25. I can tell you that.
And that's unusual.
And we had, Houston was top 10, but Florida was not in the top 25.
And that is unusual, obviously, for a team to fly beneath the radar to start the season and then cut the nets at the end of the season. And I think more surprising to me about the Gators was not, that they won the national championship, but there were several games that they could have lost. And I don't know if they gave an A performance throughout the tournament. They sure as hell did the SEC tournament, but they won a national championship. And I don't know if they played their best basketball in the tournament.
Well, Todd Golden talked about that a little bit last night because people kept asking him if he thought that all those close games prepared him for a night like this. And, he kind of talked around a little bit. I don't know if I would say they didn't play their best games, mostly because I think that teams were ready for them and the teams they played better, right? Like Texas Tech, they played terrific against Florida. And I think it's one of those things where Florida had to find another gear. Last night, the main difference for them was just offense. They had to really rely on their defense to make all their plays. Will Richards, the only one hitting shots. Houston did a really good job denying Walter Clayton any kind of looks. And I think it's just a contrast of how they had been all season. They were really, really terrific in that second half against Auburn. First half, not so much. But, were they as good as they were in the SEC tournament? No. but I don't know if anybody was as good as they were in the SEC tournament all season.
Mike Miller, the Field of 68, thefield68.com. Follow Mike on X, Mike Miller F68. Well, they did it without a 5-star recruit. They also did it without being like one of the top 10 spenders, if you will. Did Florida show a couple dozen programs out there that, hey, it's okay from a resources standpoint to be somewhere between 25 and 50, you can still get this done?
Yeah, but it's really hard to do, right? I'm not sure anybody else has the scouting background they do and the analytical background that they do. And I also, if you got Todd Golden and that staff in a really honest moment, I don't think any of them would have told you they thought Walter Clayton was this good, was going to be this good. They knew, right? They knew he was good. He was a game changer. There was a reason, that they pushed so hard for him to get him. Otherwise, Walter Clayton follows Rick Pitino to St. John's. But they didn't know. And I think, they've had guys bloom a little faster. They're going to have tough decisions now with what to do about Alex Condon and Tommy Huck, because it's, the NBA is going to come knock on the door for those guys. And that's kind of the curse, right? Of you develop these young guys and they come along sooner than you thought they would. And now what do you do? So there's certainly the thought that you can do it without having to go get a ton of high priced transfer portal guys or elite high school talent. But I don't know. We'll see. I can tell you, I think they're just certainly not going to shy away from getting high school talent. They're going to find guys that still fit what they want to do. But even Houston is bringing in 2 5-star guys next year, and they're famous for just going and getting guys that they think fit their system exactly. But they're going to go get more talent next year. So we'll see.
Todd Golden last night I thought was terrific out of timeouts. There were a lot of set plays that Florida ran for buckets coming out of timeouts that were key buckets for Florida, because obviously every basket last night was a premium. What impressed you the most about what Todd Golden did in this tournament?
The ATOs, I agree, were pretty terrific. I thought his substitution patterns were pretty important last night. Knowing what buttons to push, when to push. Because there was a point last night when, Will Richards the only guy who could get a shot in the first half.
Yep.
And then when Florida cut into Houston's lead in the second half, I think they, not when they tied the game, but I think most of the start of the second half, they did it with Will Richard on the bench. And I was really surprised by that, because I thought he would have just ended up having a ton of time. But they did it with Aberdeen on the floor. They did it with Conn on the floor. They did it with Martin on the floor. And I think it was just a matter of him understanding this is what the game called for and how I'll have to rely on these guys. He also had a choice to make with Alex Condon, who did not look comfortable at all at the start of the game. He got some points, but Condon did not look ready for the moment. And then, Condon was back in the end and, grabbed the ball at the very end. And it was kind of interesting to me that Alex Condon is the guy who ended up with the ball in his hands, as the buzzer sounded, given that at the start of the game, you thought he'd have finished with 6, 7, 8 turnovers.
I did not think that Florida would be this physically tough. I know that Golden was pressing the right emotional buttons. I know they liked one another. They played hard for one another, but in this tournament, they had a couple of moments where physically they had to answer the bell of a Texas Tech, of a Houston. And they did. And Mike, I don't know about you, but I didn't think physically they had that toughness in them. And obviously they did.
I think some of their guys certainly have it. Elijah Martin, I think, has it all the time. You probably say the Walter Clayton and Will Richard are more finesse guys and would prefer not to have to, deal with being knocked around the court all the time. I think their front court is certainly one of those front courts that doesn't get enough attention for being as physical as they are. Inyelu, of course, was every bit as physical as anybody last night. But I think this tournament was a real eye opener for Condon and Hawk to be really get the attention that they deserve to be as physical as they were. Hawk was awesome that second half against Auburn. Him and Inyelu were really the difference when Auburn came out and was more aggressive, and I thought was just, clearly the better team in that first half. And then those two keep the whole difference in their second half run, because they didn't allow Auburn to get comfortable at all. They completely negated any front court advantages Auburn had. And last night they did the same thing against Kirwan Roberts, who has no problem knocking into somebody and doing some bully ball on his way to the hoop, and ended up 3 of 13 for the night and missed all sorts of shots he normally would. It's a real testament to, I suppose, being overlooked as to that key physical aspect of your game.
Is a game like last night good for college basketball? Because the game was a slog. It was not aesthetically pleasing. It was close. It was exciting at the end. But was last night a good night for college basketball?
I think it was, coming on the heels of what happened on Saturday. I think the worst thing would have been that we get two terrific games on Saturday, and then tonight was a blowout. And we were close. If Houston hits just a couple more shots in the second half and doesn't allow Florida to get its footing, we're looking last night as Houston manhandling its way to a title. And I think that would have been potentially not great for the sport. But as it is, you get a comeback, you get a game that is really tense, really tight. You would have probably liked some more shot making, but I think in the end you'll take the dramatics and you'll take the tight game over any kind of blowout that would have featured more offense.
You concerned about this settlement that they're hoping to finalize this week? Do you think that this will take hold and things will, pardon the pun, settle down, calm down? Because I think it's just going to lead to a bunch of lawsuits. I don't think this settlement's going to stand up in court, and I think they're ignoring doing what they need to do because nobody wants to make them employees. Just curious whether or not you think that this settlement that they're working on, that they've lobbied hard for, do you think that this will settle college athletics and college basketball down?
No, I don't think so either. I think there's all sorts of lawsuits coming. College of Charleston had its best player, that I always mispronounce his name, Brozic. He is 24 and has played 5 years of college basketball, and he sued this weekend or filed a complaint, I should say, for another year. And he's claiming loss of NIL funds. And you're just going to see more and more of that. The only way that they move forward is if the athletes are made employees and they collectively bargain, and then you can have contracts. I don't think it's going to settle anything. I think it'll help, maybe, because then I think the schools will at least mostly be aligned on what they're trying to do and what they're trying to spend. But it certainly just moves one problem to another problems area going forward. Yeah, it's, lawsuits aren't going anywhere. That's for sure.
Is this going to be the SEC and the Big Ten with all of the money dominating, or can the Big East and a Gonzaga that doesn't play football, can they survive and thrive because they are only basketball schools in this current format?
That seems to be the prevailing thought. I mean, it's the whole reason Kevin Willard went to Villanova. Well, his boss is no longer at Maryland, but that's the thing. And Greg Sankey talked about it last week, and their coaches have talked about it, where there's a school of thought that because of the amount of money you can allocate to your basketball teams in the Big East, that it gives them an edge. Now, is that true? I don't know. You still have to have the right coach in place. You still have to target and evaluate players and develop players, and you have to hope people stay healthy. You got to, if you're Florida, this year is an example of, like we just said earlier, you don't need a ton of money to win. You have to be smart about it. And I think you'll see more and more teams try to be smart about it. You'll always have teams who have to spend in the portal because they need a specific thing filled. But I mean, even this year, the University of Kansas is a good example of last year. They went and dumped a bunch of money into guys they thought could score, and it didn't work. Nope. And this year, they've got their big man back, who was choosing between Auburn and Kansas in Florida Badunga, and they had to put a bunch of money into him. But then they went with two more targeted signings after that. I would think you'll see more and more teams do that, where they go after 1 to 2 guys that they think are really important if they need to fill it with the portal, and then make smart signings after that. And I think that's not just from a money standpoint. I think that's just important from a chemistry standpoint. You can't have a bunch of alpha dogs in that locker room. You can't have a bunch of guys in there that are all thinking about money. You got to put together a team that wants to win.
Mike Miller covers college basketball for the best group doing it. The Field of 68, thefieldofsixty8.com. Follow Mike on X at Mike Miller F68, Mike Miller F68. Mike, very appreciative of the last 4 to 6 weeks. Get some rest, safe travels, and hopefully we can talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Mike Miller joining us once again after the Gators cut down the nets. 3 natties in hoops, 3 natties in football for the Florida Gators. I think they're the only school with exactly 3 each. I mean, some have more and some have less, but I think they're the only ones with exactly 3 each. Pat Kirwan's next.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs and Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for 10% off your service. Find your maximum self with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples, Florida. Call 239-427-3441 today.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to NolanAgency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or NolanAgency.com.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
Is snoring bothering your spouse? Would you like to sleep in the same bed again? Do you know that snoring can affect your sleep cycle and cause lower testosterone levels? At Sleep Treatment Direct, we have easy solutions. We have a simple laser procedure that can improve snoring in 10 minutes. If you would like to get back in the same bed or are looking for a natural way to treat low testosterone, give us a call at 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Or go to sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, fellas. How are you?
I am good. You're welcome.
Hey,
Trader Pat.
Were you thinking of me when he dove on the ground to end the game? Because
when it literally when it ended, I started laughing, and I'm like, because I first checked my bracket that I'm in for money, and I finished fourth. I don't know how deep they pay. I thought I was in second. Three people had a Houston, Florida final that passed me. So I was like, all right. So I lost. I'm like, oh, Pat won all the money. Good for him.
yes, and my first job this morning when I woke up at 5:30 was to send everyone a note of financial distributions today. Oh yeah, it was fun telling each guy how much they owed. And they're all going to the hockey game. Not all of them, but one of them. All of them, but one guy, and he already won, so he's just waiting to collect his half for having the most wins. But yeah, the Florida game, and I did thank all those who decided to do business with me. And they all lost. Thanks. It was really you guys who convinced me get Florida. And then, of course, like me, we all started thinking Duke, but then a Duke turned into puke, and it was all good.
What a choke job they pulled on Saturday night. Holy cow.
Yeah. Really. It's almost like I don't ever think I've seen them go 0-9 at the end of a game. Yep. I will say this. One thing that, not because I won it, but I felt like if basketball looked like that every week, I'd watch it all the time.
So you like the physicality of those games when they're beating each other up. You like that 65-63.
I do. I like, there's a price to pay to be in the paint. There were guys freaking wrestling in there.
Yeah, they were. That was physical. That was old school basketball.
Yeah, all the way. And for Florida to win without the good kid playing very well, it was impressive.
You're right.
If you said to me, can they win if they shut that kid down? I'd say no way.
No, I'm with you. But, and it's funny, for as little as he scored, the two big threes he made late were so clutch.
Oh, my God. And I think everyone who liked the kid was relieved for him because he was throwing up some bricks.
Man, he was forcing them in the first half. Deep and just ugly.
How about when they were down 12? I had no faith that they were going to do that. Although they do it all the time.
I didn't think they were out because Houston struggled to score two. That was the only thing when it was 42-30 or whatever it was there.
Yeah. Then there were a flurry of Houston penalties. It was one after another. They just decided no more killing each other in there.
Yeah, they got involved a little too much for me.
Yeah.
For not calling. I mean, it's just like a football game. They called nothing in the first half, and they called everything in the second half. And it's like they put a whole new crew out there for the second half.
Yeah, it's like someone told them you're letting the game get out of control. But it was enjoyable telling each one, my brother Jim, you send $200 to him. Steve, you can send $200 to me. It's just great. I'll never do it again.
We gave you the Gators, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And then both of you scared me to death that Duke was going to beat them when we got to the weekend.
Well, we both picked the Gators to cut down the nets, so.
Yeah. But remember what I asked you?
Oh, yeah. Duke looked like the best. But here we go.
Okay. It worked out perfect.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floormeister Studios. Floormeisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is hour number 3, the halfway point in the 239 and the 904 of Miller and Moulton. Final hour of the show in Lake City, Live Oak and surrounding areas, Port Charlotte, Venice and surrounding areas. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. You go to many of those places to vote in our daily poll question, which today we know most of you are big-time football fans, but your college won the basketball natty. All right, let's make a deal. You keep the natty, or do you trade it for a spot in the college football playoff and take your chances from there? Come on, admit it. You care a lot more about the football than you do the hoops.
So far, nearly 9 in 10 saying they'd take the natty. Go to that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, Miller_Moulton on X to vote.
Pat Kirwan, part of NFL Radio's Moving the Chains, weekdays 3 to 7, joins us once again, courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa to Key West, all points in between. Pinchers, where you can't fake fresh. Top of the morning to you. So did you watch last night?
Every second of it, fellas. Every second of it. That's if I said this to Mark before we went on. If basketball looked like that all the time, I'd never stop watching. It just doesn't look like that all the time. It was a phenomenal game to watch. I mean, literally right to the last second of the game. So, yep, it was fun to watch. And I think your poll question's great, but it's, asking it today is hard to get an answer that's legit. Let's ask that question on Labor Day and see how they feel.
So you can tell the football guy loved that game last night. Very physical. Guys diving all over the floor. Defense being played. Guys hitting each other in the lane hard. And the football guy going, I'll take some of that. Give me some of that 1980s Detroit Piston basketball, and I'm all in.
Yes, and you know what it reminded me of? That there's more contact last night than there is in the secondary of NFL games. We have $1,000 worth of equipment on our guys, and they're not allowed to touch each other. It's like ridiculous. Those guys are out there in shorts, and they're blowing it up. I loved every second of it.
So 16 days out from the draft, when you were part of a couple different front offices, when did you start doing your mock drafts?
They should be starting now. They're reeling everybody in from the road, working on the board. And I'll let me just say this: I'll know when they're doing it because assistant coaches get assigned teams to draft for, and they'll call me and go, "I don't know, what are those guys doing? You've been doing this for the last month." So I'll hear from a couple of coaches that are in the middle of mock drafts, and I haven't yet. So I would think next week. That's not the most important thing in their routine of preparation, but it is something they like to do in order to start to speculate where they think things are going. So they will do it. And I would say next week, Monday, would be the time it'll start. It's not, they're going to do one or two. And from that, they might start to probe reasons why, like, the Raiders and Genti, there's a good example. Like now, all of a sudden, they're talking like it's a lock, and maybe they'll take him. I don't know, but I think if you look at that running back population, you wouldn't do it. There's lots of other guys out there that you could get in the second round. The two kids from Ohio State, for example, and I looked at Genti a lot. He's terrific, and I know he's got all those 200-yard games. I think 6 of them. But look at who he runs against: Georgia Southern, Hawaii, Nevada, UNLV, Oregon State, Washington. Those are the games. He didn't play against Penn State. So if I was in that room going, you know what, let's skip on Genti. I wish he played against Penn State. Then I would have known better what he really was. But he might go. But I think someone in a mock draft in a building might not take him. And then someone might say, justify why you didn't take him. And I think he'd say those kind of things. So if you see someone skip him or hear about it, it's because I told the guy, don't take the guy.
It's funny, David. I think we could work for Pat in the front office because we've always been, give us the big college guy, give us the guy that's played against the best players, and we draft more of them. But, Pat, I am curious. There are 7 new coaches in the NFL this year. when you look at new coaches, I'm not exactly sure how many new GMs there are. I probably should have had that. But I specifically want to talk about the Bears, who have had a really good offseason developing and reestablishing their offensive line and free agency. But when it comes to the draft, how lockstep is that front office heading into the draft? They did well in free agency. The draft is another animal.
It is another animal. There's got to be real harmony, and that's the meetings that are multiple hours every day between the head coach and the college scouting director and the GM. And sometimes those jobs overlap, but you got to be way on board before you get to the room. Because if you're not, things are going to get conflicted. I remember a head coach at a time, told me he went to the men's room, and while he was gone, the GM drafted a guy that they had agreed not to take. The GM liked him, but they agreed, okay, you're right, let's not take him. And when he went to the men's room, the guy pulled the card down and sent it in. I was like, yeah, that'll cause a war. So I've worked in a lot of different combinations. It was interesting how it went. Steinberg was very relaxed and solicited information all the time, right up to the moment of the pick. Didn't have a problem 15 minutes before the pick flipping a film on and looking at it one more time with someone who didn't want to do it. From there, we went on to, as I like to say, when we got to Dick Haley, Dick was very, very good at figuring out when not to take a guy and wait around, we'll get him, all that stuff. Bill Parcells ran the draft, and he locked everybody in a room, and no one was allowed out. His last words were, I hope you went to the bathroom because you're not leaving. And he was afraid people would be on their phones talking to somebody about, yeah, we're going to take, Dave Moulton in the next round. He didn't like any of that. So it was total security, total opposite of Dick Haley. So I've seen all the different styles that are out there. I think nowadays you got to be very careful. There's so much pressure from the media to position coaches and area scouts to leak stuff to them that it's you got to lock the board up. And I know guys that take the scouts, and I've said this on this show before, after they're done with the draft board, they lock the draft board, and then they send the scouts home. They don't even want them around. So lots of different ways to do it. But security seems to be I know one coach, he called me the morning of the draft and said, hey, have you heard that our GM has already been telling some people who we're going to take? I said, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. He goes, try to find out. I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not calling you GM and saying who you're taking. You got to find out for yourself. They're friends of mine, but he was nervous, and so was the head coach, that he was leaking out what they were doing.
I would think in Chicago that while Poles has had the final word the last two drafts, I would have to think, since the head coach was highly sought after and he chose the Bears, that if Ben Johnson wants a guy and Ryan Poles wants a different guy, that they go with Ben Johnson's pick this year.
I think so, and I think they might, it's the president's in that equation. That's a three-man operation.
Who wasn't supposed to be, but we all know Kevin Warren. But I just think that Kevin is now going to, this year,
Kevin's going to be on the
Ben
coaching
Johnson
side. Yep, I agree with you. Now, I think Ben will get along quite nicely with Ryan, and Ryan, I think, sees how this is going to go, and they'll be in harmony about it. I think because both guys are, I wouldn't call them easygoing, but they do value cooperation. That's a fact. They're not going to dig in their heels and get nasty about it.
How's it going to work in Vegas? How involved do you think the minority owner is going to be in the draft?
Well, I don't think he's around a lot. I think he communicates via phone a lot. I do expect him to be there for the draft. I think he likes to be told, so why do we like this guy? Now, think about Geno Smith is there. Now, how did that happen? I think we all understand that that's a Pete situation. But I've heard John Spytek say, I got to keep reminding Pete how much I like draft picks. And I think they're getting along perfectly. And I just talking to one of those two, that they're very happy and they think they're on target together. But see, I know Pete. I've been in a room with Pete. Pete's going to rehearse this 10 times over until they're on the same page. And he's not always trying to win. He really isn't. What he's trying to do is, you tell me why you love that guy. Pete and I still have long arguments sometimes about players. And he just likes to argue in the sense of, convince me you're right. And sometimes you can and sometimes you can't.
Pat Kirwan, NFL Radio's Moving the Chains, joining us once again, courtesy of Pinchers on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. Don't you think that it was paramount that Vegas had to hire a Pete Carroll, somebody that Tom only knows the guys he went up against, if you know what I mean. I mean, Tom doesn't really know all these young coordinators and assistants throughout the league. And if Tom's going to dip his toe into this whole ownership thing, he's got to be talking to somebody he trusts and respects. And there's probably only about 10 of those guys in the league.
Yeah, I think it was a perfect marriage. I think Tom realized he wanted to put Spytek in there, who had not been a general manager. He had not been an owner with hands-on, for sure. And so getting a veteran coach, I do believe, by the way, that Pete has a winning record against Belichick. So not that means anything, but it's not just respect because you've been there. It's respect because we know what you did on defense and how you handle things. And I think he likes his people skills as well. So it's a good time for those guys to all get together. And how long it lasts will be probably more about when Pete wants to retire, but Peter Pan will probably not want to retire.
Looking at the draft in the Browns, a lot of talk. I read yesterday that they're seriously interested in Hunter. Do you buy anything that's being said from teams right now about the draft, or you just have to kind of take it all with a grain of salt? We've got about 40 seconds, Pat.
Yeah, well, a grain of salt is the key here, because no one told you that from the club. That's just stuff floating out there on the internet. And it's like, and people like to say, well, I'm pretty sure look, the Hunter thing, that's in case Hunter and Abdul are sitting at 2. They've got to sort those 2 guys out. Which one of those 2 would they take? So I think those are good things to do. And if you like both of them, maybe you would move down a spot if someone wanted to trade. If you loved them both, you could give your spot up for very cheap and still get one of the 2 you like. But I think they're trying to figure out which one they like more.
I don't know how you take the corner over the pass rusher. I just don't know how you do that. And I don't care if he's a Hall of Fame corner. I don't know how you do that. More with Pat Kirwan next. Miller and Moulton would like to thank the sponsors that, quite frankly, saved the show in 2024. Whether it was Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Molly Maid, Cigar Bar, Sleep Treatment Direct, the Diamond District, and even the Cape Coral Police Department, thank you. We're hopeful of a great 2025, still needing sponsors, so reach out to Miller and Moulton via X at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton, or text us at 21,000. But Miller and Moulton says thank you to our sponsors and to you, our loyal listeners.
Defining a new era in men's health. Get stronger and healthier at Game Day Men's Health. With our in-house laboratory, get in, get treated, and get back to your passion and purpose. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs or Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for a 10% discount on your service. Start living your best with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples. Call 239-427-3441 today.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Hey, Mark.
Yes, sir.
I think we were the first three guys on any form of media to talk about, they're going to not give those division champs with bad records a home game. Now,
is that happening? Is that going to get done in the spring?
It might. I have a feeling there are group owners trying not to do it for the spring, but like we said, Roger wants it, and they're going to do it. And I think the 18 game is like, they'll definitely do it then, but they're trying to do it now. And, Roger doesn't like things that look bad. Like, he hates preseason games and no one in the stands. He hates giving a home game to a team with a 9-win or an 8-win record. Those are the kind of things that guy's obsessed with all the time. And he's getting rid of those preseason games, and he's going to get rid of lousy records.
Well, I mean, the one thing about the tush push is that people don't like the way it looks.
Right.
That's what Eagle fan can't contemplate because they're effective. But it looks ugly. It looks like a stupid play, and he doesn't like the way it looks.
Nope. And he's got grounds to get rid of it now. And he to me, I think they wasted too much time on the health part, which is dangerous, and we all talk about it all the time. What they could have done from the beginning was we're going to start calling the penalty we know is in the books. You can't aid and assist a runner. And that takes, and I wish they, for their sake, not mine, I wish they had not brought up the health, because now, if they ever let you keep doing it, the lawsuits on the first broken neck could bust the NFL.
That's a great, that they could have. Health and safety is so silly for them to get in on, because it just, like you said, it's simple. We have a rule in the books,
right? And that's what they're really reverting back to get this passed to outlaw it. Now, I hope they don't outlaw the downfield push, because those players are upright. They are not smashing their heads into the ground. And
I think they will, though. I think that play's just as ugly, Pat.
I think it's as ugly too, but it's not as dangerous.
Okay. But I don't think, I know it all started that we quit tackling guys. We now stand guys up so the second guy can punch the ball out.
Right.
I get it.
No, and it'll go away because they're going to win this thing on the aiding a runner, which you can't do. And once you say that, you're going to have to stop. How about they just decided years ago to not call it anymore? What? Right. Who gave them the right to do that? That just makes me scratch my head. But at least we covered it last week before it got to this. And I will say,
Pat, I'm going to do this to amuse myself off air. We have in our Twitch chat room, we have a list of people because they can real time text us, and they do in real time the whole show. And we have two diehard Broncos fans. One who made the claim today, with a number one running back, will Denver have the best roster in the AFC? Pat, where would you put Denver's roster in the AFC right
now? Behind Kansas City and behind Buffalo and behind Baltimore.
That's pretty good. That's fourth.
Yeah. Be interesting to think what David thinks, but I'd put him fourth, which is a good place to be.
Yeah, it's a great place to be.
Who fourth?
Someone asked it. Someone said, and we know who, that the Broncos are a running back away from the best roster in the AFC. And I just asked Pat where he thinks they are in the AFC, and he said fourth.
Which is a pretty good improvement for them, and coach does a nice job. Now we'll see how sophomore year goes for the quarterback. Does everyone remember C.J. Stroud's sophomore year last year?
Well, they stopped blocking for him, so hopefully Denver's O-line doesn't forget how to block.
Yeah, maybe. Give the defenses some credit here.
True, but I don't know. I thought second half of the year his O-line collapsed.
Yeah. Hey, David, I was just saying to Mark, we were a week ahead of the we're not going to let these guys get in a home game in the playoffs.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Our remaining moments with Pat Kirwan. Bob Harig covers golf for Sports Illustrated. He will join us in a little less than 20 minutes' time, live from Augusta, our first Masters preview of the year. All right, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being talked about now like it's going to happen. It's a done deal, even though the two sides haven't even sat down to negotiate. And I'm talking about the 18-game season, 2 bye weeks. The season will start a week sooner. It'll start over Labor Day weekend. They'll still have the 2 weeks in between the championship games and the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is going to get pushed back to President's Day weekend. And so we'll have the game on Sunday, the national holiday on Monday, and everybody's going to play one international game a year. I mean, is this a done deal?
Yeah. I think we knew it was 2-3 years ago that they were pushing towards it, and they'll relieve us of the pain of preseason and make it 2 weeks, which is great. Yeah, it's time for that. And I say this a lot. This idea that the players and the union are going to have to think about it, and they got to look, when a player's career is 3 years long and you're asking him to play one extra game for 3 years, it's just 3 paychecks to him. And he's going to say, yeah, I want to do that. Why would he want a preseason weekend when he makes no money versus a regular season game where he's going to get at least a game check? No, they'll all vote for it. And it'll make sense, and we'll make a lot of money, and the pool will get bigger. And as the pool gets bigger, they make more money, even if you don't like the CBA.
But what do you think the league would give up? I mean, obviously, the players are going to want more money. Okay, the owners are going to want the percentage to remain the same. But what is it that you think the league will genuinely give up? Will they go to, let's count the practice squad as a roster. We'll have now rosters of 69, or you can have 53 active on game day instead of 47. I mean, what is it that you think the league will genuinely give the players? Because I don't think they'll do it for just one more check a year.
No, I don't think. Well, it won't be much more than that, though, because they don't have to. The players, they know that most of the players are going to vote to play the 18th game. So they already know they're going to win the vote if, in fact, the union lets them vote. Usually that little committee does it, and they'll try to get more. And what I think they're going to end up getting is an expanded roster size, which the union's going to love because it's going to be anywhere from 64 to 80 more jobs, 90 more jobs in the league. And that they'll tell their rank and file, we got 90 more jobs. And that's what I think they'll get. And that's reasonable to ask for and reasonable to get. And I already know owners that want that. They want the guys that are being paid. You say it all the time, David, getting paid, but in street clothes. We're going to see more guys in uniform, which is going to be, coaches will love it. And the players will love it. And the union's going to love it because they got more dues payers. So yeah, that's what they're going to get. That and a game check. And be happy you're getting that. And they're going to show them the growth of the cap. So yeah, we're not giving you any more of the cap, but the cap's going up. And your salaries are going to go up, and the cap charge for the teams is going to go up. So all that's going to equal more money. It's not a career. It's a business.
We've talked about what the cap went up this year, what it's projected to go up next year. And as they get into these CBAs, the cap's going to be at a pretty big number. Then you'll throw more on it when you add roster spots and maybe increase practice squads and things of the like. Back to the draft. Sanders or Genty? Who gets drafted first?
Sanders or Genty? Oh, that's a good question. I discussed that with Jim yesterday. Where is Shador going to go? It's pretty close. I would say if you say Genty, it's because you believe in the Raiders taking him. If you say Sanders, you think the Giants are taking him, which I'd have to say, for now, I'll say Genty.
So that means Sanders could slide, in your opinion, like big time.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers slide, but he can't help himself with his mouth. Someone said, well, he's just trying to prove how much he loves it. Yeah, everybody who's got a first-round grade loves football and wants to play. Don't be telling guys they're going to be losers for not taking them and all this other nonsense. He was doing fine by just being a good quarterback. But you bring in that element, there are, not all, but there are GMs and coaches that don't want to deal with that. What if you sit him on the bench and say, you're not ready? What do you think he's going to be spouting off to the media? They always project these things into what is it going to do to us if we have him? How many media outlets are going to be here every day trying to get a soundbite from him? You know that's happening. And there are definitely guys that don't want that in their building.
Do you think the Saints can afford to pass on him? I mean,
No.
really, if both guys were on the board, it'd be interesting because it's replacing Kamara or replacing Carr within the next year, and both are big ticket, but Carr is a bigger ticket. I mean, I just don't see how the Saints, with their cap situation and their roster, quite frankly, which is not good enough to win, how they could pass on Shedeur Sanders.
I agree with that. They might have another issue when they're looking at it. I don't think it's a bad idea for them to take him, but we know that they've got dead money issues. And how long are you going to keep Carr? There's the question: is Carr for 1 year? Then is he automatically the 1 year guy and he's out? Even if you trade him, it doesn't matter. You're still going to have a dead money hit. So those are the things I think will be on their mind. They're constantly trying to figure out how to manipulate things, but I don't know how they could pass him. I see a couple teams that Pittsburgh should be talking about him. New Orleans should be talking about him. The Giants should be talking about him. All the way down to the Rams. There are people in there that you can make a case need Shedeur Sanders. But I don't think he's helping himself. You did not react when I said that, but I just know how coaches and everyone are. Those guys, and they don't worry about Deion. No one cares about Deion coming to take your job. No one cares about what Deion's going to say because he's going to be quiet on this once he's on a team. But the kid's going to have to learn to shut his mouth and just play. And when you do play well, because you shortened your opportunity to convince your teammates you're good. That's all you're doing. Those veterans are going, oh, okay, if he can play, I don't care if he talks. But if he doesn't play well, we're going to tell him a couple of things about shutting his mouth.
Pat, we learned a little bit watching that Hard Knocks, and I wish they do that offseason every year, and I understand why they don't. But at the Combine, the Giants walking over to the Patriots and having a little chat. So we know the conversations start at the Combine, maybe even earlier. Take us back to your days of director of player personnel. How much are you working phones right now with other teams to set up possible deals, or is it still a little too premature for that?
Well, no, you can start throwing out some hypotheticals, that's for sure. You can talk and discuss, and we divided it up by friends. Okay, who knows the guy? I know the guy in Raiderland. I know the guy in Kansas. Those are the teams I dealt with a lot. And we would call and say, look, I don't know where you guys are with it, but man, the way our draft board's setting up, we think we love your spot. And if you want to take someone there, go ahead. But if you ever wanted to move, we'd be willing to give you a 1 and a 3, whatever it is. And he would say back to me, well, keep that in mind. We're not even up to that point. But, we'd start fishing a little bit. And you never tell the other team who you're after, number one. And you keep it open like, maybe we're going to have to give you more. Maybe we give you less. But we're definitely interested in your spot. And right now we're thinking it's worth a 1 and a 3. Now, they know you're calling the guys right around you, too. So
He's Pat Kirwan. NFL Radio's moving the chains. It's weekdays, 3 to 7, and leading up to the draft every Friday, he and his co-host Jim Miller do a mock draft. They will do another one this Friday. Pat joining us courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa to Key West, all points in between. Pinchers, where you can't fake fresh. Pat, glad you won a few shekels on the bracket. And I know you don't listen to us for football, but at least you listen to us for basketball. So that's good.
I listen to you for everything, you guys. What do you think I'm doing here 2 days a week? I come on at 7:30 and listen to your show for a half hour.
Right, when we're not talking football.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or nolanagency.com. Sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Bob on hold. Oh my goodness.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
22 minutes until the top of the hour. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Thanks so much for being with us. Our timing for this poll question is probably not the best. But we asked, as a fan, you can have a basketball national championship or your favorite college football team could be in the playoff. Which would you rather have? We're not guaranteeing you a football title, but we're guaranteeing you a shot at it. And we all know that most of you love your football over your hoops. So that's our poll question. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, Miller_Moulton on X. Bob Harig's been great to us over the years. Check out anything that he authors, not just his weekly work, on Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Bob joining us once again on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. You can follow Bob on X at Bob Harig, Harig. So, Bob, what's changed in a year from last year's Masters?
What's changed on the course or off? Off the course, not much. That's the problem. We could have been talking about some of these same things a year ago in terms of where the game is. On the course, they had Hurricane Helene did quite a bit of damage in this community. For us in Florida, it was a big water storm surge event, but here it was like a tornado. Unbelievable, like to drive around town and see the destruction still 6 months later. And obviously it's a first world problem in terms of the golf. People were impacted far more than what it matters in the golf, but there are a lot of trees missing here. Like you can see things that you didn't used to be able to see. And I don't know if that's going to affect the play much. I think we'll find out, but it does have a little bit of a different look.
If anything in changing the course, will it change the way the winds swirl? Will, I was listening to Schauffele's interview yesterday and talking about how, like what you just said, how from certain tees you can see across the golf course that you couldn't see before. The only thing that got me thinking, will it make the wind swirl even more at 12? Will it make certain par threes or approach shots more difficult because there's less cover?
I think it's definitely a possibility at 12 because that area behind the green there is not as dense as it was before. Now, look, you can maybe argue that the wind swirls from higher above, but it just, it makes you wonder if it will have some impact there. I think there's some other places on the course where it's more of a sightline issue. Like you don't have something to aim at that you used to before. There was a couple of trees behind the 15th green that are no longer there. Again, it's not so much stuff that was in play. It's more nuanced than that. So we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out.
Bob, is the LIV schedule early in the season enough golf to get these guys ready for the Masters? I mean, we've seen they're clearly ready by the PGA and by the Opens, but do they play enough golf on the LIV Tour to be ready for Augusta?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I mean, they played 5 events this year. They haven't done that every year. Some years they've played only 3 or 4. And I question that. I mean, the thing I guess the thing I would argue is that they have other abilities to play tournament golf around the world. They could play international series events. Some of these guys are DP World Tour members, like Terrell Hatton actually won in Dubai earlier this year. So he's played 6 times. He won the Dubai event, and he's played 5 live events. A guy like Patrick Reed, played the International Series event in Macau a few weeks ago, and actually qualified for the British Open by finishing in the top 3. In fact, their top 3 guys all did that. So, and that was a 72-hole event. So they have guys who've played, more than the 5 live events. And look, as a professional golfer it's your job to figure out a way to get ready. Is it enough golf to be ready? I mean, I think even if you think that it's not, then you need to figure out a way to get ready. Like it's your duty to kind of figure that out and prepare. And so I think that I really kind of think that storyline, it's something we wondered about, but I don't think it's as much of a thing anymore. Like, Bryson contended here last year. He was the first round leader. And 2 years ago, obviously, Koepka was in contention, and he was part of LIV in 2023. And then he obviously he won the PGA. So, I think some of those, talking points are less of an issue now than they were when we first wondered how that was going to play out.
I'm going to cheat and ask the same question. I'm just going to substitute LIV with Scotty Scheffler because of the hand injury. It seems like his game is coming into form, but typically he's played a lot more leading up to the Masters. Has he played enough golf? Are you satisfied with where his form is heading into this week?
Yeah, I think, he missed 2 events he would have played. And needed a little bit of time to get going. But I think he's okay now. I'd be surprised if he said that was an issue. It's way more of an issue for Xander than it is for Scheffler. Xander's been playing catch up here the last month, whereas Scotty now, he's upset that he didn't win in Florida 2 events that he won last year, but it's unrealistic to expect a guy to do what he did again last year. He's had several top 10s. He had a good tournament in Houston 2 weeks ago. Shot the second round. I guess it was 61 or 2. So, I think he's probably in pretty good shape. And the thing that's been a little off this year for him, he's just not putting quite as well. But if he's hitting a lot of greens, his forte is tee to green. I think that's more of the tell, and he seems to be fine at that part of it.
Is this story as big or bigger than when you were at Augusta 20 years ago and Phil was approaching 34 years of age and had yet to win a major? Here's Rory, who's a month away from 36, but we all know that he's working on over 10 years without a major, and this major he needs for the career Grand Slam. I mean, is this the feel that Rory at the Masters has? It was like Phil 21 years ago, like, dude, when are you going to win one of these suckers?
I think it's a little different because he has the full. Phil was. It's amazing to think of Phil and how he came along and he had won 9 times before Tiger turned pro, and then before Phil won a major, Tiger had won 8. I think I'm right on that. Tiger had won 8 majors before Phil won his first. You know, think about how brutal that must have been for him. You know, I'm not sure it's the same for Rory, but I understand what you're getting at. This has been his quest. This is the 11th year now where he's come to the Masters with a chance to complete the career Grand Slam. And not only has he not won the Masters, but he's not won any major. And I think if he'd have won another major somewhere else, this one wouldn't seem as bad. But this is probably the major where you'd say, if we'd have started at the beginning of Rory's career and said he's only going to win one, you'd probably say it would be the Masters. Like, his game just seems so suited for Augusta, and it would have. And of course, it's really the first one that he contended in. You know, in 2011, and he blew it, and then he wins the next major at the U.S. Open. So, you know, I've been saying this. If not now, when? You know, he's probably playing as well as anybody in the world right now. You know, obviously he's won twice this year. Xander's playing catch up. Those two guys are ahead of him. You know, Bryson is playing good golf, but he's also not won. You know, Bryson really hasn't even been that close to winning this year. So it is you sort of feel like, man, it's Rory's time to get this done, and if he doesn't, you wonder if it'll ever happen.
Colin Morikawa's playing really solidly. He has 3 straight top 10s in the Masters. Hasn't won in a while. Do you think his game's in the right spot to get it done this week?
His game is in a good spot to get it done as it's been since he won his second major 4 years ago now. Like you said, he's got the high finishes here. He was in the last group last year. You'd think that he learned a lot from that. Playing with Scotty. He was in the last group, I believe, at the PGA with Xander last year. You know, he had a couple of high finishes there. He's had some high finishes already this year. He's just not been closing it out. So I think it would have done him some good to have won a tournament earlier this year. I think that would have helped. But because when he gets near the lead, I think those questions pop up again. And it's understandable why people have some doubts, because it's been a tough go.
My son-in-law said, if I took Scheffler, McIlroy, and DeChambeau away from you, would you take those 3 or the field? Just curious, your thoughts on those 3 or the field.
I always enjoy those kind of thoughts because it speaks to how we view those guys. But I would almost always take the field. You know, I mean, there's just so many things that can happen. I mean, we used to do that all the time with Tiger.
Yep.
You know, I mean, and it's just even though I wouldn't be surprised if the winner came out of those 3. I mean, that means we're leaving Rahm off of there. We're leaving Brooks Koepka out of there. I mean, there's so many great players that we're discounting that could easily step up and do it. So I'm always probably going to be one of those guys who's going to go with the field.
Bob, we're always appreciative of your time and insight. Oftentimes when we have you on, you are releasing a book or re-releasing a book. Do you have anything that you're releasing right now?
No, sir. The Tiger book that came out a year ago, though, still kind of fits. The Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods, I still think it holds up. But no, nothing new right now. And you know what, to be honest with you, I'm not sure if there's a paperback of that or not. I got to find out. But usually that's what they do. A year or so later, they bring, that's their excuse to be able to bring it out again.
Well, considering he's not going to be playing much golf, okay, I think the book from last year holds up just fine. He hasn't played much since, and he ain't going to be playing much in the rest of this year. So, Bob, be safe. Have a great Masters, and we'll talk soon.
Appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
Bob Harig of Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Follow Bob on X at Bob Harig, Harig. Harig, Bob Harig.
Very curious if someone who hasn't won a major can rise up and win one this week. Seems that we always point to previous major winners to win this tournament, or people that have done well at Augusta. Can someone who's not done well jump up and take this? I like Oberg and Morikawa. Those are the guys I'm leaning towards in your son-in-law's bet.
And you know I've got Oberg. I forgot about Morikawa. That's on me. I'm curious whether or not there's an LIV guy who can contend.
I think John Rahm's that guy. He's played pretty well on LIV this year. He's had a bunch of top 6 finishes. So his game's in form. It's just whether or not, I think your early question's right on. Have they played enough competitive golf? They play a ton of golf. Have they played enough competitive golf? And will they be ready for Augusta? It will be interesting with all those trees down, how the noise on the course changes. Does the wind on the course change? It's something I think is worth paying attention to in the early part of this week.
Will they have to adjust the bird sounds that they pipe in?
Exactly. It's all part of it, David.
I didn't say that out loud, did I?
Yes, you did, and our chances of getting credentials have just been eliminated.
Let me tell you something. If the folks at Augusta National are listening to Miller and Moulton, either live or on millerandmoulton.com, right. Miller and Moulton are very grateful to you, the listeners, for making us one of the highest rated shows for men, because the working man is one of the toughest demos to reach, and we do. Great sponsors like Floormeisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Sleep Treatment Direct, Game Day Men's Health, and Molly Maid recognize that, and we thank them. And if you own a business and working men are your clientele, the most cost-effective way to reach them is through us. Text Miller and Moulton at 21,000 or directly via X at that Mark Miller or the David Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floormeisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floormeisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floormeisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floormeisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
We've got a text message for Dr. Dollar. I feel tired, sluggish, and just not myself. I'm gaining weight, my energy is low, and I've lost my drive. Could it be low testosterone?
Absolutely. Testosterone naturally declines over time, but you don't have to accept it. Low T can affect your energy, strength, mood, and focus. But here's the good news. Testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, can help restore your vitality and get you back to feeling your best. Imagine waking up strong, sharp, and energized, ready to take on the day like you used to. At Revitalize Clinic, we specialize in physician-guided, American-made TRT designed just for you.
Take control of your health today. Call Revitalize Clinic at 239-277-5770. Visit revitalizelounge.com or text Dr. Dollar directly at 239-980-2302. Feel like yourself again. Testosterone replacement therapy, because your best years aren't behind you, they're just getting started. Text Dr. Dollar now at 239-980-2302.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Robes, I would go with Neiman, except he has stunk in the majors. I mean, could he contend in one?
Irish, I do find it funny because I should give up the Twitch chat room because it sometimes infuriates me. But Pat Kirwan was the director of player personnel for the New York Jets. He has been in and around the National Football League for 30 years. I asked him specifically the question you asked, and you basically say he's full of crap. I want to get all the rosters compared and then take a look. Do you honestly think you have an effing clue about football rosters more than Pat Kirwan? I mean, do you think you're like, let's say Pat's, I guess Pat's a 7 and you're a 10 on NFL rosters? I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, asked him exactly what you put in there, and you basically say it's full of crap. I find it hysterical that you know more than a guy who has spent his whole life in the National Football League, who does the draft every year for 7 rounds and knows damn near every player that they're talking about. And Logic Man, slow down, because your Philly boy on your tush push thinks it's all personal. So I could come after you just as easily. I don't need anybody else to help me in my arguments. I really don't.
Look at this, a Trent Bally sighting. Tigers have won 4 in a row, Trent. Pistons, Knicks in the first round. I'm a Knicks fan. You want to bet?
How many games are you going to give me?
Well, it's just, I'll definitely give them a game and a half. Okay. The question is, do I have to give more?
Yes.
Remember, this is Trent we're talking about here. Trent thinks all his teams are going to win straight up.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Well, we think we've had a hell of a show. David Samson, Pat Kirwan, Mike Miller from the Field of 68, Bob Harig live from Augusta. I mean, not bad for a Tuesday. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Having a little fun with our poll question, which is, all right, your college team won a men's basketball natty, but would you trade it for your football team having a shot in the playoff? And I'm proud of you guys. I am. Okay, I think Pat Kirwan, when we asked him the question, he said, we're asking it on the wrong day. We're asking it too close to the Gators cutting down the nets. We should have waited till right before football season.
Yeah. We may revisit this question. I think Pat hit the nail on the head. Do it around Labor Day.
So hats off to the Gators. And we had Mike Miller from the Field of 68 on, and we believe nobody does a better job day in, day out covering college hoops than the Field of 68, fieldof68.com. They have an amazing staff. Jeff Goodman, Rob Douster, John Fanta. I mean, the people they have that are part of their site, and they do 2-3 live hour shows basically every night. And
a
not
million
just
podcasts. Whatever
Yeah.
team that you follow, there's a pretty damn good chance that they're doing a pod on either the conference that team is in or specifically on your team. They do a terrific job. We have been incredibly lucky to land Mike Miller, and he gave us time basically for the last 6 weeks, and we put a bow on the season with Mike earlier in the show.
But we asked him, we said, hey, don't want to make you look bad, but so where were the Gators in your preseason top 25? He goes, oh, they weren't in it. He goes, no, we didn't think they sucked, but no, they were not in the top 25. And if you think about the polls, were they in the preseason top 25? I know very early in the year, like Mark, I did their third or fourth game of the year. They hosted Jacksonville, and they were ranked. I mean, when I did the game and, was doing the introductions and all that, the Gators were ranked. But it was either low 20s or very high teens. And I mention that because take it for what it's worth. But I have seen already way too early 2026 top 25s. And even though Houston's losing a bunch, as Mike Miller pointed out, they're bringing in 2 5-stars, which is very un-Houston-like. Mark, here's John Fanta's way too early top 25 for next year in college hoops. He's got the Gators at 13. By the way, Auburn 11, Kansas 12. Houston at 1. Purdue at 2. Louisville, Duke, UConn.
I have to be brutally frank, and I'm not trying to be mean here, David. I couldn't give a rat's behind about next year's poll, and here's why. Unlike football, that sets the precedent in the preseason for how the polls go, and that affects who gets into the playoff, college basketball figures it out.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the polls look like in November, by the time we get to March, the pollsters, the Ken Pom, all of these things have worked themselves out. All we're worried about is North Carolina or whomever going to get the last spot in the poll. And for as much as we bitched about that 3 weeks ago, it doesn't matter. The 4 ones were in the Final Four. So whoever the last team was, Team 68, to get into the field, really was irrelevant this year. And they figure it out in college basketball. We'll see now, as we go from 12 to 16 in the near future, how much preseason polls in football will have to do with what the playoff looks like and how much a team's early ranking can help them. It seems to me, David, with more teams qualifying in the football playoff, it will be less important as to where your August ranking is.
Tough to argue with any of what you said because it's completely true. Remember, wasn't it by early to mid-February that Kansas, which was the almost unanimous preseason number 1, was completely out of every top 25 poll, coaches, media, etc. So you're right. They work it out in college hoop. But sometimes they get it right just in terms of, these are the folks we have an eye on for next year. So I just want to throw it out there. Like, for example, North Carolina's 23rd. Sparty's 18th. Michigan's 15th. Also, this was the year of the SEC. Right now, this is John Fanta, who covers the sport as a whole, he has one SEC team in his top 10, Alabama. Now, he's got Auburn 11, Florida 13, Kentucky 16, Tennessee 17, Arkansas 19, Texas in the top 25. But just, and it's a crazy world we're in right now. The players are already being bought and paid for. Already being bought and paid for. Auburn bought a player as they were showing up in San Antonio for the Final Four.
They say upwards of $10 million to build a basketball roster, which seems outrageous to me. I mean, that seems like an astronomical sum of money. If it only takes $20 million to build what Ohio State did in football, half for a basketball roster? Are you crazy?
Well, I think we need to dive into that. I heard somebody who I thought said something interesting about that. He said, everybody's talking about now it's 8 to 10 for basketball, and Ohio State was 20. Ohio State was 20 to get what they had to all come back. He goes, that was kind of misrepresented. Okay, don't think the Ohio State payroll was 20. The Ohio State payroll was 20 to get everybody who could leave to come back. That didn't count the freshman wide receiver, if you know what I mean. So, but the point that's been made to us, I mean, when we had, sure, can't believe I'm vaping on his name, our college football guy, okay, Bud Elliott. So when we had Bud on, and Bud said, you wait to see how quickly these payrolls get up. And you wait to see how quickly the quarterbacks are making what the coaches are making.
That floored you, by the way. I mean, when he said that, that floored you. I mean, that was a jaw-dropping moment on this show.
But, I know a handful of college basketball coaches and just shooting the bull with them in the last couple of weeks, going, so what's the Wild West like out there? And they're like, let me tell you how much money you got to have. It's every bit what you think and more.
And that's why it's hard to take any stock into preseason polls of next year because the portal's not even done yet.
It's not done, but I will say there's been a lot of major moves. There have. Like Michigan's already landed 2 big signings in the portal. Big. Auburn's had a good signing. How about, Purdue's bringing everybody back? Although they lost one guy, but otherwise they're bringing the whole team back. So, listen, it's a poll. It's not even worth the paper that it's printed on, and none of you print them out on paper anymore. So that's how much it's worth to you. But since the Gators were basically not in everybody's top 25 when practice started in early October last year, I just wanted to throw out what people are saying within the 24 hours of the Gators cutting down the nets for you to just kind of keep in the back of your mind. So who are they going to miss out on next year?
We talked about Houston and their defense and how good the Cougars could play defense. You really have to give it up for the Gators and what they did defensively. Houston did not get a shot off in their last 3 possessions.
I know.
Didn't get a shot off. The Gators, who had 9 turnovers in the first half, only have 3 in the second. Was the number. We had Kevin Brockway on. I asked him, how many turnovers? They've been getting 16, 15 turnovers. Number's got to be around 12. It ended up being exactly 12. Despite their shooting woes, despite a lot of things going wrong, they out-rebounded Houston. The turnover stayed at a number that was doable, and their defense was lights out at the end.
And the other thing which was remarkable was that unlike against Duke and other teams, usually when Houston grabs an offensive rebound, they turn it into points. I believe they grabbed 12 offensive rebounds against Florida. Their second chance points were like 4. That, whether it was long rebounds on missed threes and then the Gators defense clamped back in and still didn't allow a score, but there was none of the putbacks. None of the follow-up jams. Remember, Houston's down 3 to Duke. They get the steal. The guy goes out to the wing, misses the 3. What does Houston get? The offensive rebound and the putback all in one motion.
Gators out-rebounded Houston, had more
1.
points in the paint than Houston by 4, and had more second chance points by 3.
And yet Houston, I believe, and it's remarkable because of what you just pointed out, that they did not get a shot off on their last 3 possessions. I believe, Mark, Houston attempted 13 more shots than the Gators.
You're close. 16.
And it is really
more shots.
It's really tough to lose a game when you commit less turnovers, the other team's not hitting their threes, and you get 16 more cracks to score.
Same number of three-pointers made by each team. The big difference, the Gators got to the line more. They were +8 at the free throw line. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs and Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for 10% off your service. Find your maximum self with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples, Florida. Call 239-427-3441 today.
This is Miller and Moulton.
That's too bad.
I have one tidbit if you're interested.
Sure. I like a tidbit. I like a bit tid.
I have not, Logic Man. I have not.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when. All coming up on Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Broadcasting live from the Floormeister Studios. Floormeisters. Just keeping it real. This has not gotten as much press as I think it should, which is surprising because it involves the National Football League draft. Did you see the player who was invited to the draft late last week, heading into the weekend, who accepted the invitation to the draft?
I'm not sure what you're speaking of, David.
A quarterback. Now, remember, the NFL does not want to embarrass players. They don't want Brady Quinn sitting in the room forever. Aaron Rodgers being tormented. Now, they had no idea. Okay, they thought he'd go, he at least went in the first round. They don't want Will Levis invited to the draft, sitting there with his girlfriend, not going in the first round. So when I tell you, Mark, that Jalen Milroe was extended an invitation to the draft and he accepted.
For Friday?
No.
Saturday?
No.
Thursday night? Is he bringing out the card for one of the teams?
No, he's not a former player.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out because I know he's gained a little steam, and I know he's had some workouts for some teams, but most of those teams that he's worked out for, you would expect that to be a day 2 pick. I know he recently worked out for the Browns. Well, that's not a second overall. That's a day 2 pick.
Unless the NFL feels pretty confident that people are going to trade back into the first round, or that somebody in the 20s, the Steelers, the Rams, we can all rattle off the teams who need a quarterback, if not for the present. They're probably going to need one here pretty soon. And if this is the move you have to make to get your hands on that quarterback, then you got to make the move.
Fascinating, because I like Milroe a lot. I like watching him play. I mean, the legs are incredible. He throws a deep ball really well. But as a quarterback, I don't know what else he does that's very good. Now, I know he's impressed some people in shorts and a T-shirt, but that, again, is shorts and a T-shirt. So I'm not too worried about what he does in those rooms. I'm more concerned with what he did on tape. And he did not look the part of an NFL quarterback. He's got some of the intangibles that will make him attractive to NFL teams. And I could see, for me, I could see spending a 3rd round pick on him. But if I'm the Rams, and I get it, they need a quarterback of the future, but I'm still going to live in the present because I think I can win a division. And that's more important to me than making sure I have a project quarterback for the future.
But you have to be intrigued by the fact that he got an invite to the party. You usually have to be of a certain caliber player in the eyes of the NFL to get an invite to the party. I mean, where on the quarterback list are you hearing Jalen Milroe going in this year, a weak quarterback class draft?
4th or 5th. 4th or 5th. And there's only 2 guys that are for sure first rounders. And it looks like, obviously, Dart at this point has emerged as he will be someone taken in the first round. I don't know if he's a first round talent, but because the quarterback position is so premium, it certainly appears that he's going to be a first round draft pick. So that's stunning to me. It almost seems like a setup, David.
Pittsburgh at 21. The Rams at 26. The Lions at 28. I mean, they don't have a backup quarterback. They don't. And if anybody says Hendon Hooker to me, they signed a guy who was retired, who was coaching high school football. And when he was needed in a playoff game to literally take 2 snaps and hand the ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs, they didn't trust Hendon Hooker to do it. They trusted Teddy Bridgewater.
David, I love Pat Kirwan's line that he's brought to us in the last few weeks. And I have to use it when you mention anybody taking Milroe to be their backup this year. If your starting quarterback goes down in week 1, are you comfortable putting him in as your backup? Because I'm not.
Don't disagree. However,
you disagree? You think
I said I don't disagree.
Okay, sorry.
To me, if you're drafting this guy as your number 3 quarterback.
Absolutely.
Right. But if you're Cleveland, who has the first pick of the second round, by the way. I mean, Tennessee is the first pick of the first round. Cleveland is the first pick of the second round. The Giants have the first pick of the third round. Cleveland, Giants. How about Raiders? I mean, you got Geno for 3 years. Guaranteed money for 2.
I mean, you've got Cleveland 33, the Giants 34, Tennessee 35, Vegas 37.
And the Saints at 40. And for that matter, the Jets at 42. They signed Fields to a 2-year deal. They're intrigued. Okay. But I'm just talking about teams that the NFL's clearly hearing things. And if we don't think Pittsburgh at 21 or the Rams at 6, that one of those teams is going to take him where they're currently sitting, do we think Cleveland at 33, the Giants at 34, the Raiders at 37, the Saints at 40, the Jets at 42?
Well, I think ultimately what you have to ask, David, and you're on the right track, but if they're bringing him in for Thursday, do you think the Rams, Baltimore, Detroit, Washington, Kansas City, Philadelphia would trade out of the first round
Absolutely.
with one of those teams to let them acquire their quarterback at the latter part of the first round? If he gets past the Rams at 26, then you're looking at teams that might trade down. You've been big on the Dolphins trading down from 13, and perhaps with Kansas City. Who knows? Maybe the Dolphins would trade twice to get out of the first round and acquire more picks and try to fortify that offensive line and defensive line that's so necessary for them heading into next year.
The Rams do not have a second-round pick, and they do not have a fifth-round pick. They've got 2 3s. They've got 4 6s. So if you're the Rams at 26 and one of those early second-round teams calls you, well, you're obviously getting their second-round pick. You're also asking for a fifth, and then you're probably adding a fourth rounder this year or a third rounder next year.
Don't count out Minnesota at 24. They also do not have a second round pick.
In fact, I think they may only have 5 draft picks this year, Miller and Moulton.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or nolanagency.com.
You have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
We've got a text message for Dr. Dollar. A few of my friends are taking daily Cialis or Viagra. What are the benefits and how much does it cost?
Great question. Cialis, tadalafil, and Viagra, sildenafil are game changer for men who want better performance, stamina, and confidence. They improve blood flow, support long-lasting performance, and help you feel like yourself again. And the best part, at Revitalize Clinic, we make it affordable. Less than $1 per pill. No overpriced prescription, no hassle, just real results, American-made, at the best prices in town. Plus, with early hours starting at 5:30 in the morning, we fit your schedule.
Take control of your health today. Call Revitalize Clinic at 239-277-5770. Visit revitalizelounge.com or text Dr. Dollar directly at 239-980-2302. That's 239-980-2302. Get results. Get confidence. Revitalize Clinic, because every man deserves to perform at his best without breaking the bank. Text Dr. Dollar now at 239-980-2302.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Adam, are you okay with the Jags trading their pick? I don't think they will, but it's interesting because if somehow Cleveland takes Hunter at 2, it changes the draft dramatically to me. I don't know if they'll be as, Dad, I get it. David always seems to think that there's a lot of trades, and he's right that they want to. It just seems that more teams aren't willing to trade up these days. Seems that more teams want to trade down. The Michigan D tackle dead stroke. That's who he's talking about. Graham.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour. Final segment of Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday. Hump Day tomorrow. Our Masters previews continue. Seth Everett to join us. We'll start talking a little draft as well, with the first round being 15 days away, beginning tomorrow. So that's what you have to look forward to.
I was fired up on Sunday when the two of us got a text from Seth about the Ovechkin goal, because Seth is all Devils all the time.
Right.
He never seems to deviate from his teams. And the fact that he was all in on Ovechkin made me fired up. I was genuinely happy. The Ovechkin thing made me happy to see it, but the different people that reached out to me from all different corners of my life and all different types of sports fans, not hockey fans, into the Ovechkin record and he breaking Gretzky's all-time goal record was just one of those things that genuinely made me happy to see how many people took joy in what Ovechkin was able to accomplish on Sunday.
It's that time again, nearing the end, but not quite there yet. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
David, Today Was the Day When is brought to you by Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Offices in Bonita Springs or Naples. Call today, 427-3441. That's 239-427-3441. David, this is the segment where I do Today Was the Day When. Yesterday, I did the good, the bad, and the ugly when I was supposed to be doing this segment. Let's see if I can do my job correctly. Unbelievable.
Hey, we all appreciate the disclaimer at the beginning.
1766, the first fire escape was patented. It was a wicker basket on a pulley and chain. 1808, big day for the Catholics in America. Baltimore was promoted to an archdiocese by Pope Pius VII, with the founding of dioceses in New York, Philadelphia, Boston, and Bardstown, which is now Louisville. Today in 1904, New York City changes the name of Longacre Square to Times Square in honor of the New York Times move to the area. 1913, the 17th Amendment was ratified by Congress, providing the election of senators by popular vote. 1935, at the Second Masters, or the Augusta National Invitation Tournament, as it was known at the time, Gene Sorensen wins a Monday playoff to take the championship. The Bruins won their third Stanley Cup today in 1943. It was a sweep of the Red Wings. 1963, the Tigers claim a young pitcher by the name of Denny McLain on waivers from the White Sox. He would go on to win the Cy Young in 68 and 69 and the AL MVP in 1968.
And steal a whole bunch of money from a whole bunch of people on a couple of different occasions.
And perhaps fix a World Series game. 1966, the American Football League votes in a new commissioner, 36-year-old Al Davis. The appointment would only last 3 months because the AFL would merge with the NFL. Today in 68, MLB decides to postpone opening day because of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. 1974, number 715, Hank Aaron, off of Al Downing to break Babe Ruth's record in Atlanta.
It's the night I turned to my mom and said, I want to be a sportscaster.
Frank Robinson debuts as the first African-American baseball manager today in Cleveland in 1975. The Indians would beat the Yankees 5-3.
And wasn't he a player manager when he started? Remember, in the 70s, they still did the player manager thing. Joe Torre went into the early 80s with the Mets as a player manager. Pete Rose was a player manager for the first year plus. He was manager of the Reds. I thought when Frank Robinson became the first black manager that he was still playing, though.
I believe you are correct, David. Today in 1976, Leroy Selman becomes the first pick by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 1984, LA becomes the second most populated city in the United States, displacing Chicago, which had held the position since 1890. Nick Faldo goes back-to-back, beating Ray Floyd in a playoff today in 1990 to win the Masters.
You know, his first, you really think about all three of his Masters wins. Scott Hoke misses was it 2 feet? 2-footer to win the Masters, and he didn't even hit the hole. I mean, he just lined up wrong and missed it. Okay, that's 89. Faldo wins on the next hole. Floyd puts one in the pond on 11 because he's rushing to use a porta potty because he's worried about it getting dark. And even Faldo turned to his caddy and said, "What's he hurrying for?" And then we all know he comes from sick back against Norman in 96.
To hit it in the water on 11 by Floyd is such a misplay, it's not even funny. I think it might have been Hoagman. I was just reading something in the past couple of days that if I ever end up on 11 green, it's by a mistake because I pulled it because I'm trying to play it right of the green and miss the green. 25 years ago today, arguably the most popular skit in Saturday Night Live history occurred. I need more cowbell. They are great skits. I'm not saying it's the best. It may be to you, but arguably the most memorable skit in SNL history. Christopher Walken needing more cowbell. And he can't walk anywhere on planet Earth without someone yelling that at him.
And he now resents doing it. He wishes he hadn't.
Tiger won his second Masters and his sixth major today in 01. Zach Johnson wins in 07. Bubba Watson wins in a playoff today in 2012. Louisville beats Michigan for the title in 2013.
I'm glad they still count that because I technically don't think it's in the NCAA record book. So I'm glad somebody still acknowledges it.
Everybody's favorite Masters champion, Patrick Reed, won today in 2018. And Virginia finally gets theirs, beating Texas Tech in overtime today in 2019. Ponce de Leon, Sonia Henney, Betty Ford, John Havlicek, Catfish Hunter, Gary Carter, Ricky Bell, and Biz Markie. You say he's just a friend. You say he's just a friend. Would have all celebrated birthdays today. Jim Lampley is 76 years old. Izzy Stradlin from Guns N' Roses is 63. Julian Lennon is 62. Patricia Arquette, 57. Felix Hernandez is 39. And C.D. Lamb is 26 years old today. What did I miss, David?
A couple of things in 1990. Twin Peaks premiered on ABC. Also, Ryan White, who was the symbol for AIDS in 1990, passed away at the age of 18. And they found Kurt Cobain today in 94. They feared he had been dead for 3 days, after his suicide.
Twin Peaks opened today?
I'm talking about the TV show on ABC.
I can honestly say I saw that, but I didn't include it because I can honestly say I never watched an episode.
I didn't either, but I know it was a popular show. I figured there are a few people out there that were fans.
Go binge watch today, everybody.
Time to see life a little bit differently. Here's Mark Miller with the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
For the good, we go to Maryland, where a Maryland man was helping his mom move some furniture and found a stash of scratchers. He said, "Hey, Mom, I've got some scratch-offs here. Can I scratch them?" Mom said, "Go ahead. Take them home." They understood they would split any winnings. He won $6, $15. But the last ticket was a $50,000 winner. Way to go. For the bad, we go to San Diego, where the San Diego Police Department rescued a woman who had been missing for several days. The 59-year-old Yifeng Zhu was found in a manhole. She apparently had been there for a couple of days. Police detectives in the area heard a woman's voice coming from the manhole and got assistance from the fire department and paramedics. She had been there multiple days. No word on her condition. And finally, the ugly. Deanna Holder wins today's award for worst human being ever.
Oh.
The 45-year-old Port Charlotte woman is accused of torturing her 15-year-old Shih Tzu Yorkie mix. The dog was found in severe distress. The fur was matted, clumped with feces and urine, and apparently, according to Charlotte County Animal Control, they say it's one of the worst matting cases that they've seen in 27 years of service. She was arrested at her home and is being held in the Charlotte County Jail on a charge of animal torturing. That is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, Tuesday, April the 8th, here on Miller and Moulton. I hate to go there. I had a hell of a time finding stories today.
I understand. I know you don't like to go there.
Sometimes we go a little darker than we want to on this show. And that's usually just during the breaks when I yell at the Twitch chat room.
It's only a recent phenomenon. NHL tonight. Any chance the Panthers have of improving their playoff positioning? They host Toronto tonight. This is one of the rare times that the Lightning fan is a Florida Panthers fan.
And not just a Florida Panthers fan, a huge Florida Panthers fan. They are pulling hard for the Cats tonight.
For a regulation win, which would keep the Lightning 2 points behind the Leafs, and they will have played the same number of games. And then when the Lightning play the Leafs coming up in a bit, they could potentially move in to first place. There is one other game that's really big, and you're well aware of it.
Oh, yes, I am. It is the season for my Detroit Red Wings, who have sputtered down the stretch, losing that outdoor game and the back-to-backs with Columbus that really put them behind the 8 ball. They are in Montreal tonight. They trail the Habitants by 6 points in the standings, but have played one fewer game. So if they win tonight, they're 4 back with a game in hand.
2 of the 10 NHL games being played tonight. There are 10 NBA games being played tonight. An interesting one in Orlando because the Magic are a game ahead of the Hawks. They're playing one another. If Orlando wins, you figure the Magic will be the 7 seed, and Atlanta will be trying to fight off Chicago and Miami to remain the 8. But if Atlanta wins tonight, the Hawks and the Magic will be tied with 3 games to play. Remember, 7 plays 8, 9 plays 10 in the NBA playoff system. Winner of 7-8 is in the playoffs as the 7 seed. Winner of 9-10 plays loser of 7-8. And the winner of that game becomes the 8 seed. Obviously, if you're the 7 or you're the 9, you host the play-in game. But I don't think it has any real meaning tonight. But the Knicks host the Celtics, and they're winless against OKC, Cleveland, and Boston this regular season. I am very confident in saying, Mark, they're the 4th best team in the league. They're just 0-9 against the 3 best teams in the league.
Yeah, there seems to be a canyon between those 3 and where the Knicks are.
Lakers in OKC. Oh, by the way, and the Lakers right now have a 2-game lead in the loss column to be the 3 seed. Golden State's at Phoenix. I believe if Phoenix loses, they're out.
Well, it's such a logjam. Whether there 4 teams that are 4, 5, 6, 7 right now.
5, 6, 7, 8 in the West are all tied. Clippers, Golden State, Minnesota, Memphis, all tied. And Denver at 4 is only a half a game ahead.
And Denver's reeling down the stretch as well. They are not playing very well. A lot of aces thrown tonight. Today. Skubal on the mound for the Tigers. Skeens on the mound for the Pirates. Crochet on the mound for the Red Sox. Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler going at it in the Phillies and the Braves. Miller and Moulton, Hump Day edition tomorrow.
Miller and Moulton are very grateful to you, the listeners, for making us one of the highest rated shows for men, because the working man is one of the toughest demos to reach, and we do. Great sponsors like Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Sleep Treatment Direct, Game Day Men's Health, and Molly Maid recognize that, and we thank them. And if you own a business and working men are your clientele, the most cost-effective way to reach them is through us. Text Miller and Moulton at 21,000 or directly via X at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment
Do
online.
you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.